to smash my balls on live recording.
On live
audio.
This is gonna be the most violent episode of the Weeb Crew yet.
Is that good?
I don't know. Are you good? It seems like you've just castrated yourself.
I think your camera was tilted a bit too high. Just let's lower it a little bit.
Oh, okay, I'll have to. I'm gonna try that again. Don't worry, I'm a plush right now. I think if we're using the right.
Okay.
You can find the exclusive footage of Steve smashing his balls on the Weeb Crew Patreon.
On Patreon right now.
Welcome to the Weeb Crew Podcast. I'm your host, Mumi, as always. Got Sai.
I don't want to be here.
Well, you're the one that brought us here. This is all your idea.
Wait a minute. This operation was your idea.
And as our special guest today, we got STEVEM.
That's me.
I guess this will probably be based on, because we were supposed to record with Gil and Jaden tonight, but we were actually supposed to record last week, but then someone had to have their fucking appendix burst. So that threw a wrench in everything. And we were going to record tonight, but then other things happened. So now we're recording here.
I did not, full disclosure, that was something to do with me. I did not make anything.
What did you do?
Nothing. I'm just clarifying.
Sound awfully guilty.
No, I'm just making sure.
Based on when this should be going up, this will be the first episode of 2024.
Wow, look at that. I'm bringing the new year in.
Hell yeah, which means you're the first guest of the Weeb Crew Season 2.
Damn. Start this with a height.
Yeah. We're doing podcast seasons now because...
Damn.
Why
I don't
not?
know why.
You really are. You've been corporatized.
There we go.
I like how season 1 is just 2 years and 20 some odd episodes.
It's still it's 22 episodes, so it's about the length of like a 2-core anime.
I think 22 is pretty regular in American television production. Yeah,
it's a respectable 2-core. It's not 26 like those, greedy
or God
standard
forbid
2-cores.
27 like fucking Gurren Lagann. God, way too long.
Yeah, no, it's 22.
That's something
like psychopaths.
27 is the episode exactly of which that's the limit of how much Gainax can produce before they blow up, basically.
Before their entire studio falls apart.
Yeah, because one of those episodes I'm pretty sure was outsourced, so it'd be 26 probably.
What happened to Nadia? Is that one around when it got shipped out?
Yeah, that's when they realized they can't handle the show that's 30 episodes plus.
It's very funny how we talk about Gainax as if it's like this big studio when they could barely manage to they couldn't produce Evangelion on their own.
No, they had to get a different studio on it, and that was the case for like everything past Evangelion too. It's like most of them were like co-productions.
No, there were quite a few co-productions of Shaft, which is always interesting.
Yeah, and JC staff with Kari Kano.
Yeah.
I think technically Gurren Lagann is all Gainax, but it does have a lot of, I think they have a couple episodes just outsourced to different people.
What was the case later on with like when you get into like C3 and Pleiades, where like Trigger had been like founded by that point, so a lot of people had left Gainax for one of their successor states, basically.
Yeah, one of the several of them.
Yeah, which one's the true successor to Gainax? Is it Kara? Is it Trigger?
How do we define it? Really depends on how you define what Gainax was, I would say.
Yeah.
Do you define them by their tax evasion? Then it's probably going to be Gaina. If you define them by like, I don't know, the stuff they've done post Evangelion, the sort of more kooky stuff, you might define it as Trigger.
Trigger, yeah. If you define them as Hideaki Anno,
the Ava, where Anno made shit for a while, then it would be Kara. And it's like him and his friends who could never stop making the same thing ever again.
What's like there's another one too. I think it's like Gainax Kyoto.
Yeah, I think that was an offshoot, but I think that has to do with Gaina and that, because that was, I think, when
something happened.
That was just like a
shell
shell company.
There being something
tax evasion.
Yeah, because I think I think it was something like that. Like now, but now there's just like several small ones.
There was like a tweet. There was a tweet that specifically said we are not associated with Gainax, and I'm like,
probably not anymore.
And then Gaina's really funny because it was originally like Fukushima Gainax.
Yeah.
And then it split off to become Gaina, which is not affiliated with Gainax, and then just moved back from Tokyo, and then it became their office in Fukushima just became Gaina Fukushima.
Yeah, there you go. It is interesting because I think they're actually releasing a new show soon, aren't they? The first time in a very long time.
Are they?
I think they are. Aren't they doing that mecha show? I have to look this up.
Jamie, look up the
Jamie.
Gaina mecha show.
Jamie, is Gaina Konada is Gaina making a new anime?
Gaina is making a new Grendizer anime that's coming out this year. You could have just looked this shit up yourself, you fat lazy fucks.
Oh yeah, Grendizer. Yeah, they're bringing back Grendizer, right?
Oh shit, that's pretty big in France, isn't it? They fucking love that.
I remember seeing there was a Grendizer video game that had come out recently as well. That I was just like,
just the revival of the Grendizer series. The media mix approach.
It's literally just Breath of the Wild, but with mecha.
Okay,
I'm not even joking.
Better.
What the fuck?
That sounds better.
It's an open world. I guess you just run around and beat shit up.
Okay.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
This looks kind of scuffed in a way. Like being a giant robot running around with little trees.
Little trees and
like
stuff in an open
Breath
world.
Of the Wild clone.
Now, what I'm interested in here, I'm going to have a look at this right now. What's the situation with Uru and Blue? Has Gaina finally accepted that's not going to happen, or are they still like pretending it is?
I think it's
now.
they.
I see an update.
They still have
last
not. They still have not denied that it's no longer in production. But
interesting.
I mean, from what I don't think Gainax has any staff anymore. I think it's mostly just the most activity I've heard from Gainax as of late has been their work to preserve.
Well, it's been made at Gaina. That's what I mean. Like Uru and Blue's production at this point, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be at Gaina.
Maybe then, because there's other stuff coming out that's supposed to be coming out from Gaina as well, like something called so it is credited for Gaina on AnimeList. So
yeah, that's basically just the new hub of Gainax.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, I guess there's also a
third aim for the top.
Gunbuster 3.
Yep. Which will also
Gunbuster 3,
probably
that's
come
definitely
out.
come out. I have no idea what the hell Rescue Academia is. Yeah, there's all this stuff that Uru and Blue was supposed to. Yeah, it was announced that Uru and Blue will premiere worldwide in 2022.
2 years later.
Wow, I can't wait for it. I mean,
I can't
that's
wait.
like a year ago. It must already be out. I can't believe it
so
already finished it.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where, but I also don't want to say that it's been like canceled, because I remember with Pluto.
Oh yeah,
there was like rumors going around that like Pluto's like production had been canceled along the way or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it was completely
obviously that's not
unsubstantiated.
true. Yeah, they were. Well, I think they were very quickly just like refuted. So
yeah,
maybe that's what we need to do. Let's start a rumor. All right, guys, everyone listening right now. Let's all say that Uru and Blue has been canceled due to production issues, and then when that goes viral, they'll have to say something.
Yeah, the Ota King told me so.
Oh,
very trustworthy, so he knows it must be true.
Very trustworthy.
He is the king.
Just shoot him in Yes, I mean, why wouldn't he know? He's very closely affiliated with the production.
Absolutely, it certainly hasn't not been part of the production for 30 years.
For 30 years, he's a very popular YouTuber, which is surprising.
Yeah, I think he does a lot of live streaming, doesn't he?
Okay, typing in Ota King. Oh, here he is.
Yeah, I think he has Toshio Okada / Ota King or something like that.
Yeah, Ota King / Toshio Okada. Hey, he has over 1 million subs. God damn.
He has an English channel too, right?
Yeah, he's got like a dubbed version, or he has
although it's
dubbed videos on his channel.
Right, yeah. I mean, there was also, I think one of the better videos that he's done, I don't know how recently, this is about a year ago, but it was him talking about why, despite the fact that the anime industry is making so much goddamn money, animators are still being paid like shit. Anime budgets are still more or less, from what I understand, around the same as what they've always been. despite
maybe
the fact
with
that
inflation, they have definitely went up. You know, you can definitely see the amount they went up. I think the problem is, again, Oda King doesn't actually work in the industry, so he might say stuff like, yeah, they're just like they're in the 90s when like they've actually kind of tripled from like those periods, or like at least from the early 2010s.
The fact that the video was then put up onto the Animator Dormitory Project's YouTube channel, or like their second channel, something like that, does, I feel like, at least like give it a little bit more credibility than a lot of the other stuff he will say.
Yeah.
I think, I do think, if anything, if anyone knows about getting fucked over by production committees, it's probably people who used to work at Gainax.
Yeah.
That's just exactly pretty much every one of their experiences. Even with Ava, right? That was the joke with Ava. It's like, Ava, their deal was terrible, but they just made so much money it didn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, because who the fuck was on the production committee? It was like fucking everyone, wasn't it?
It would be King Records was the main.
King Records,
main
yeah.
Are you going to see Sega? Sega would be on it.
Oh yes, Sega, of course. Have you seen Isekai Oji-san, by the way?
I have seen the reference that he makes because he knows that they did it.
He knows what Evangelion is because it was produced by Sega.
He probably played the Sega Saturn games because two of them released first games that came out for Evangelion are the two impression games for Sega Saturn exclusively.
That's right, yeah.
And there was a Sega Saturn in Evangelion.
There was?
Yes. Asuka's playing it.
Oh yeah, the class president's house.
Yeah.
That's what effective product placement. What was the beer? Was that a beer company?
Technically it is though, because Sega Saturn is the best-selling Sega console ever in Japan.
Really? More than Genesis? Wow.
Yeah, it can be directly credited to Evangelion and Asuka play.
Yeah, it's all Ava's. It's all because of the Ava game.
Of course.
That's it.
That's why the PS2 sold so well, because they made Evangelion 2.
It's true.
Was there a beer company involved with Evangelion, which is why Misato is like constantly drinking?
She's got a specific brand, doesn't she?
Yeah, I thought so. What was the brand?
It might not be a production committee. It could just be like, was it Sapporo?
Yabisu.
It might be different in the rebuilds.
Yeah, I think it is different in the rebuilds.
Okay.
But in the rebuilds, they probably have like an actual...
no, this... no, it looks like Yabisu. This is a frame from the...
No, it's an off-brand. Yabishu.
Yabichu.
Yabichu.
Yeah.
Was it like, did they have to change it? Was it like they had it as a certain thing in the first episode and they changed it later on the series?
When they released it on home media?
Maybe, I can't remember.
That'd be a good thing to check, because we do have like the original TV release of Evangelion. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Jamie, shove it in the clip. Shove it in the clip.
Connor, pull up Evangelion.
Yeah.
I'm not pulling up fucking Evangelion. Yabisu was originally featured on the TV version, but was changed to Yabichu because the network complained. Then for the home media release, it was changed back to Yabisu. Are you happy, fucktard?
I mean, the best beer product placement in anime is, of course, Penguin's Memories.
Yeah. It's hard to beat.
Even though there's no beer in the fucking movie.
Yeah, they don't even drink... That's the thing, they don't even drink beer at the bar.
Nope.
Interesting.
They drink like cocktails and wine and all kinds of shit, but they don't drink beer in a beer advertisement.
Yeah, have you seen Penguin's Memories, Steve?
I don't think I have.
Do you know what it is?
Is that like the Vietnam penguin film?
Yes. Yeah. And the thing with the penguins they are, what was it, a mascot for Sapporo beer or?
Suntory
beer.
There you go. Oh, that makes sense. So like the mascot can do anything though. That's the media mix way, right? So the mascot doesn't actually have to drink beer.
That's the media mix thing, is that the mascot can do anything, including being in a very dour, like coming home from war movie.
I think we made the joke of like the fucking Budweiser fucking frogs from the 1990s frogs. Like commercials. Being in fucking Jacob's Ladder.
Put them in Jacob's Ladder. Yeah, so it gets you to buy beer because the movie's really depressing and you just kind of want to drink afterwards.
I can see what they're going for. I mean, I'm waiting for the Noid to be in Jacob's Ladder.
I mean, the Noid kind of deserves it, to be honest.
The Noid, the paranoid.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
So we had to talk about anime.
What the fuck are we talking about? We should probably do like a proper introduction for the episode, now that we've rambled on and gotten off track.
Did we do it?
We said hello.
We already did the intro.
We already did the intro, but you got to do the thing of like, well, now we got to have our guest introduce himself.
Oh,
I got to do that.
Yes. You need to introduce yourself.
Do your like Yeah, well, I told you need to write like a 500-word essay, and then you have that prepared, and you're just gonna read it off for the podcast.
Yeah, and I did what I always did, which is I didn't write anything, and I'm just gonna improv.
What did you bring for show and tell?
Me, I'm the thing.
Flush.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. I guess. Well, by the time this comes out, I think the project will be over. So we'll see if it wins or falls. But that was a surreal one. I got approached by some company like last year. Early, they were like, "Do you want to do a plush?" And I was like, don't know if that could actually be successful, but I think it'd be funny. So here we are now.
We actually got approached for the same thing. It wasn't the same company.
Yeah, we did,
though.
And we're like, we're
really?
not going to be able to get like the 200 or like 100 number of shipments necessary to put it in production.
Yeah.
Although getting prototypes would be neat.
Yeah, it is neat when you start getting like emails of people being like, "Oh, are you interested in doing this deal?" It's like, thanks for acknowledging our existence, but no.
I feel validated as a content creator now that sponsors are reaching out.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, today's sponsor.
Oh my god. I don't think we're going to have a sponsor in this episode.
Is it? Will be the next one, I guess.
It's going to have to go on.
The sponsor is mine. There we go. They can buy my plush, even though it's probably too late.
Buy the plush.
It's going to have to go on Gil and Jaden's because it's got to go up before December's over.
Oh, okay. Never mind. This episode's not sponsored, which is why I can now say.
Well, I think on the bright side, I think that link never expires, so it's not like we're not sponsored.
It's not like we're not sponsored. We just don't have to do any more ad reads.
Any more ad reads, which we didn't
unless they ask us to do more.
We didn't never have to do them on YouTube anyway. It was only on.
I guess by the fact that we're talking about having a sponsor, we're already like this has already been sponsored.
So it's a kind of viral marketing. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I thought it'd be a funny idea to have like Weeb Crew fucking plushes, but I don't think they were actually going to do like what your sponsor did and actually like send us one.
Make us like a prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think they would probably do like a mock-up, like on the computer or something, like draw one or something. But
right. Yeah.
Probably not going to send us
the issue with that. Like the process. I mean, I don't know if people at home want to know how this goes. Like what I effectively did is I drew them a picture, and then they drew me like a schematic of what their like rough illustration would be, and then we went back and forth on a couple bits and details of it, and then they created a rough plush, and I would go like, okay, the ears are wrong, the eyes are wrong, or like I want this bigger. I think the head needs to be a bit more this shape. Legs should be this size. Maybe the legs should be longer.
His bulge needs to be much larger.
Yeah, I said that too. Give him more of an ass.
I mean, what I feel like would be more appropriate, especially given your interest, Mumi, would just be to have like those like vinyl figures that YouTubers are also getting now.
Like the knockoff Funkos or something.
Yeah, something like that. I just get like a shitty 3D printer, and I send them out unpainted, and we just market them as Weeb Crew Garage Kits.
Weeb Crew Garage Kits.
Now, if you do that, you got to make sure you got a girl. I know you got like a little girl on the interesting stickers you have. But you need like a real Creed girl, a Weeb Crew girl, like a real media mix.
You can hot glue her yourself.
Oh my God.
Send us your hot glued Weeb Crew mascots.
Be sure to take a picture, post it on Twitter, and add us with it. And we'll feature you on an episode.
Nothing will attract sponsors more than a viral campaign like that, I swear to you. They're all going to really love that and not absolutely run away.
They're not going to run away at the idea of their figures. We're just going to keep up with the euphemism of being hot glued.
I don't know why using hot glue instead of like
someone who doesn't know what we're talking about is actually just going to like put hot glue on a figure and be like, I did it. We're like, no, that wasn't.
People do that, though.
I guess people do still do that.
I guess some people like the aesthetic of like them just covered in cum.
But they don't. They don't want to actually
glue, so they don't have to clean it off every fucking time.
What do you mean? What do you mean they like the aesthetic?
I don't know. Like that's a whole fucking like thing. Like the whole bukkake shit. Like that's a whole thing in itself. So like,
You
if
hang
you
around
wanted to
some
see
weird
this
circles.
character just be covered in fucking cum all the time, you use hot glue and it just will never dry. It'll never turn brown, and it's always looks like she got cummed on recently.
So, Steve, for the viewers who are unfamiliar with you, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I make videos on the internet. That's crazy, I know. And they usually are about anime these days, I guess.
Yeah. But they were
Sometimes.
not about anime. I guess you have like some videos on like what's like the Nohabe's like video. That's like one of the more popular ones.
Well, you made that video on Scott Pilgrim recently. That's not.
I did.
That's not anime.
Oh shit! Oh fuck! That's so funny. I didn't think people were still like into this conversation because I'm a bit late to it. You did yours like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
and
we got
I've
no
got like
views.
it's been like I said last I checked, there was like 40,000 views, and it hasn't even been 2 days. Like fucking hell, these people are still going. There's like 400 comments of people. Most who don't seem to have even watched it, but
well, those are kind of we've talked about this before. Those are the kinds of comments you want. You want people.
Yeah, I'm getting all the crazies.
Yeah, who are just like so brain rotted they just see a video and immediately like comment on it without having like even watching the video, because that's it boosts engagement.
I saw a couple of people who think I got the opposite conclusion at the end. I'm not sure how they managed that. They're like, it's anime. I'm like, I literally said it was, and I don't. I'm not that invested on the topic. And so I was going to make this video anyway. This is just a perfect like setting ground for it. I was just wondering how I'd ever advertise it, because like. I thought the idea of making a video that's called "What is Anime?" I'm like, no one's gonna fucking watch that. Who gives a shit? They're like, yeah, I know what anime is. I'm not gonna watch this shit. Yeah. So like, that was always gonna be the debate. You gotta do
the quote unquote anime problem.
Yeah, that came to me in the middle of the night. I think I had not slept in a while, finishing it up, and I was like, what the fuck are you gonna call this video? Because originally it was gonna be something about Scott Pilgrim. I'm like, well, it's not trending as much as now. It's been out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta stick to my guns. The anime problem. There we go. In quotation marks.
There we go. That's how you know it's a STEVEM video.
Yeah, they'll know. And they can be angry that I called it the problem. But I thought in this situation, the title makes enough sense, because the problem is always about how do you clarify what is and isn't something which is already going to be an artistic statement.
Here there's an actual problem.
And Scott Pilgrim is problematic. So there you go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, even the new show seems to think about that. You know, they kind of are very aware and making jokes about that.
I've not seen it yet, and
it's pretty good. I liked it. Well, I got some people.
Have you read the comic?
So funny. I have, but it was about 10 years ago. So I know
I've not read the comic, and I saw the movie like a month and a half ago for the first time.
I see.
So I feel like if I went in to the anime, I'd be kind of confused.
Maybe
just because it's a bit more like metatextual, I guess.
Yeah, there is an element of that to it.
Yeah.
Though, if you've seen the movie, you know the beats, and they reference the movie quite a bit too.
Okay.
Which is what I thought was an interesting thing about it, is that like, oh god, I'm knocking my glass. What's interesting is how it references basically every little piece of the media mix quote of Scott Pilgrim. You know, there's references to like the author, there's references to the movie, there's references to the video game.
Right.
In like small little ways.
Isn't there who's the director for the movie? Who directed the movie again? I can't remember his fucking name.
Edgar Wright, and in the anime there's Edgar Wrong.
Edgar Wrong. I saw
he's
that.
The director.
That's funny.
That's pretty good.
And then Mumi won't watch it because he hates Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, I'm not a Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably rubs some people the wrong way for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand. Some people were pissed off because, I mean, I guess this is just how like the outrage merchant culture war machine goes. Is that
I've seen a couple of people say it's woke, and I was like, what
woke?
The fuck what world are you living in? I had a couple of people being angry, and I don't know what they're angry about. I don't know if it's the video, if they're just angry I'm talking about Scott Pilgrim. But yeah, I'm just like, this thing from 2004 is woke. What the fuck are you on about?
I don't know. I think they think that I think the idea is that Scott Pilgrim, the original one, is based, and then the new one is woke because it has.
What's the difference?
A woman main character is the idea.
I guess they didn't read it because she's kind of like a main character in the comic books, definitely.
Well, it's very like the people who like
story.
make YouTube videos about this also probably do not watch the things that they're talking about. They're just they just read like shit off Twitter or articles they didn't write, basically.
And I did see someone who said something like they thought that the West was the one propagating isekai, and I'm like, bro, do you even know where that term came from? Like,
yeah, wait, what do you think
are you on about?
I mean, I guess the interesting thing about that is that like, if you actually go to like the Wikipedia page for isekai, it in English it predates the Japanese one, which is always kind of funny to me.
Because
I think people, I'd imagine that people outside of Japan, at least in English-speaking communities, they seem to be much more anal retentive, or just assholes when it comes to isekai and be like everything about it, basically. Whereas like it doesn't seem to be like something that's like as much of a point of general anime fan conversation in Japan, at least from what I've seen.
There might be some. I feel that it's this case with maybe the English fandom, and you see it. I mean, you ever like watched an old podcast from anime creators from like 20 years ago, or like back in 2006, and you kind of hear all the stuff they're talking about, and you kind of get an impression of like what their like pet peeves were with anime in like 2006.
Right. Yeah.
And you kind of get this interesting, like the word moe comes up a lot.
Oh, interesting. I guess that would probably align with what was it, Densha Otoko, that really popularized the term moe, made it a normie word.
Like I was saying on the English side, but they're like worried about it, I guess, because it's like I think a lot of them are sort of more old heads who are like
who are worried about moe taking over anime.
Yeah, I think they're like, well, this moe stuff. Ugh.
I remember there being a sentiment like I wasn't into anime. I wasn't in the fandom at the time, but I remember like from the outside there being a general kind of sentiment of like apprehension that like Haruhi and like Lucky Star and like these like slice of life shows that were kind of coming over and becoming popular and taking over like the spaces.
What's interesting to me at least is I guess it's the lack, and maybe I see it a little different from being not in like the American space, but I know how it worked, how it like developed. And you can see it, I guess, with manga video over here, but like the way anime as we know it was advertised to these people during that sort of era was as like exploitation grindhouse stuff. You know, Akira did well.
Right,
and they kind of looked, especially with manga video here, and I know it happened in the States as well, they looked for everything they could find that was remotely close to it, even though that stuff wasn't a majority of what was coming out. But they just tried to find everything they could for that market. And then I feel a lot of people who grew up in that era assumed, well, this is what anime just was. But no, it's just what you were given because what they knew they could market to you, what you buy.
Right.
And it's like a manufactured sort of position of what a genre is. Because like, you know, for the most part, if they ever learn what that word is or they use Japanimation and stuff, it's because those words were weren't necessarily created, but they were popularized, I think, by people trying to sell you stuff. Like there were definitely small groups of fans who used these terms beforehand. And I think Jaden's video gets into that a bit. But, you know, like if you talk to the Fred Pattons and stuff, they like talk about the fight between like the smaller communities in terms of how do we describe this thing we're into as a hobby? Like, are we going to use the word Japanimation or do we use the word anime? Because you look at his earliest talks he does in like the late, I guess it'd be the early 80s, he just uses the word Japan animation or Japanese animation when he's talking
Japanese
about it, which
animation.
it doesn't roll off the tongue. So I think they're looking for something a little more simple.
I can understand why you'd be averse to the term Japanimation, though, because what Jaden talks about is basically
ungraceful.
And also anime is just a lot easier to say.
Yeah, and it's a bit boomer, especially because I think what happened is like some of those bigger American companies started using the term, like they were in the know, but everyone had kind of started moving towards anime, so they were just completely out of touch. So I think they might be
like a real asshole. It's gonna be a real asshole and just start being like, "Oh yeah, I want Doga."
Yeah. Well, you might as well just start calling it donghua because if we're gonna go back to the source. Them Chinese words.
Chinese words. It's like, oh, you mean you watch Chinese animation? No.
What?
Well, why would I
I'm rationally offended?
Like,
why the fuck would I watch Chinese animation?
Donghua. I don't say anything about it being Chinese.
Yes.
But it's interesting because like it definitely matters like at what era you got into anime, right?
Yeah, like, I can see in the comments because I can see the people who grew up in that era. They're always telling me the golden age, which doesn't mean anything in anime. It's like the 90s and the 2000s, or if they're a bit older, it's the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's just really funny.
Well, I mean,
like with that Arno quote where he says like anime's dead. He's like he basically said like from 1985 to 1995, anime hasn't changed at all. It's stagnated. And I just think it's so funny when I hear those people say that now. Just to hear someone who lived through that.
We've had a kind of like general swath of like generations now on the podcast as guests. like like William Chow, Happy Console Gamer.
Who's the youngest we've had on? Was it Roger? He's only like what?
Like 14.
He just turned 20.
Yeah.
He's turning 20 this year, right?
Yeah. Roger Smith, 2004. He's
pretty young.
years.
And I don't know. Maybe I'm in the middle. I'm like, I'm about to break 30 soon.
You're about to reach the heights of us cool kids.
Yeah, the veterans of the community, I guess now.
But yeah, I always think like, because like you always think of like back in like the 90s when people were complaining about Sailor Moon, fucking saturating the industry, and you look back as like, dog, what?
What? Because you can literally go on like and find like old Usenet posts of people complaining about that. One of the funniest things, and I forget where I read this, but it was basically like otaku in the 80s were very upset when the OPs for mecha anime stopped saying the name of the show in the opening song.
I remember
it's so interesting when you hear that stuff, just like these sort of like weird sort of idiosyncrasies that sort of people they get used to them, and then suddenly like it's not there and there's a whole debate and you're like, I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about it. It's like, what?
I can't wait for in 10 years where people are like, can we stop having these vague as fuck one-word titles? Can we go back to just having like the really long light novel titles like in the good old days?
Like when anime starts fucking adopting the YouTube clickbait algorithm kind of shit, where it's trying
I was thinking more like
it's going to be really difficult when that happens, because then they're going to be taking my shit and they're going to what am I going to do when they start putting problem in the title of their things? Am I going to start calling it the problem? They're going to fuck me over.
The problem children problem.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck, that sounds terrible.
Fuck. Just call it the problem.
The problem.
Yeah, shit. Okay.
See, so it just becomes like a Hollywood movie title instead. It was just one word.
No, see, at that point, YouTube's meta will be acronyms, so you'll just have to put TP. And they'll have to click the video to figure out what you're trying to...
Oh, no. Anyone talking about Cyberpunk is going to be fucked.
Oh, no.
There's already a problem.
You're going to take me if I say Cyberpunk?
The Cyberpunk problems, the TPCP.
The CP problem.
I could struggle with that one. I have to work on my logistics.
It's like I'm just imagining like a snarky cartoon like Rant Sona being like the problem with Cyberpunk, and that just gets abbreviated down to the problem with CP.
Oh no!
Then their audience of pedophiles gets mad at them.
They get very angry that they even could have suggested such a thing.
It kind of ties, like, this all kind of ties into what we've been talking about the last couple of days about like the differences in consumption. It'd be interesting to like do a video on it. I don't know if you like how much you've run into it, Steven, of like just the different ways that people have kind of, because like we've been talking about in just our server, I guess, how the West kind of consumes things almost as like prestige. Like there's like this idea of like prestige databasing where you're watching things and then they have to be like the best. Like you watch, you go like the game of the year or anime of the year kind of stuff. And you're always like, oh, the thing I consumed has to be the best, or like, these things I consumed are the best. I think that's
kind of it might be a kind of dude thing on the internet. I don't know. Like I feel maybe it's a very American thing too, because to me, I don't know. I guess some people do that here. Because my wonder about it usually is like, it kind of feels like that, like, getting the best out of your money, get the best out of your buck thing. I don't know if it really works in the streaming era in the same way.
Well, I think of like how you like we have like the West has sites like MyAnimeList, right, where people are tracking and scoring stuff. You got like the whole top anime lists and all that.
I guess it depends how serious you take it. I always find that those lists have like the worst recency bias in the world. Yeah, like, you can't even find anything that's like that's earlier than 15 years on those lists.
No, it's terrible. Really push. It's absolutely abysmal.
What was that thing like everyone dogged on IGN for like their best anime list?
Is it just stuff that came out the last 10 years?
Let's take a look. The 25 best anime series of all time.
Yeah, well, no, that's the live reaction, everyone.
Let's see here. Haikyuu. Trigun.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Dragon Ball. All right. My Hero Academia. Made in Abyss. JoJo.
Entire series.
Naruto, specifically Shippuden.
Okay.
Death Note,
Interesting.
Attack on Titan, Oron's on Netflix, so I guess that kind of explains it.
I see.
Devilman Crybaby, Demon Slayer, Code
Demon Slayer.
Geass,
Yeah, the gay one.
Samurai Champloo, Bakano, Fooly Cooly, Yu Yu Hakusho, Evangelion, yeah, Hunter x Hunter, Mob, Hajime no Ippo, because I think that's also on Netflix.
It is.
Monster,
Okay.
One Piece, Bebop, Brotherhood.
I mean, it feels like they did like the equivalent of data mining. What are the most popular anime in America right now?
Yeah. What are like the most
Traditionally.
popular? I mean, like you said, Mumi, like prestige anime, basically.
I mean, some of them prestige. I think some of them maybe don't. Well, I guess it depends how people reflect on them. I know Shippuden back when it was releasing certainly didn't have the prestige
Right.
of like maybe a Bebop or something, but it's definitely very popular, especially in the States.
I mean, I think they're trying to cast like that kind of net of like, well, we also want like the like people who only want shonen to like look at this list as well. So we'll put in like Demon Slayer,
I sometimes wonder with a list
Naruto.
like that, it feels like it was made for people to dunk on it.
Probably to a degree.
I do remember a lot of people like being like, what the fuck is this list? Which, I mean, I could see that being like the intent. Yeah, but it feels very limited.
The
It
top-
feels very limited in its scope.
The top
'cause
result behind it is just fucking Reddit saying roasting IGN's top.
roasting. What
I
actually is-
bet they knew that was going to happen.
They probably anticipate at this point. That's probably how they get
Yeah,
half
of
the
course.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's all hate clicks.
So yeah,
right?
they do
I mean,
specify series at list because I was like, there are no movies on here.
yeah, I was wondering about that myself. I think they're trying to keep it a bit more. 25 is quite a small number for the amount of stuff that have come out in the anime in general. So
This is very true. They have a top 100 animated series.
yeah, there's probably gonna be some anime on there anyway.
Which starts
But it
with
tends to be how it
Josie
goes.
and the Pussycats. What the fuck?
Never watched that show?
Someone remembers it.
I mean, I may have vague memories of, what the hell just happened?
Oh, there's a list
the
right
website broke.
there. Hey, it's just a list. There it is right there.
There it is, yeah. I mean, I may have watched Josie and the Pussycats like a couple times on Boomerang in the middle of the night.
Before my time, I think. I don't think it was on around when I was.
Movie was probably on when it was like airing in like the 70s.
Yeah, that, Jabberjaw, all kinds of.
Movie remembers watching the first Tom and Jerry short in the theater.
I remember when they landed
1940,
on the
goddamn.
moon. They
Yeah.
interrupted my Tom and Jerry to show me the moon landing.
Man. Ironically, one of my earliest memories is them interrupting my cartoons to tell the world about 9/11. That was pretty devastating for a 6-year-old. I didn't know what 9/11 was, but like I couldn't watch Woody. What was it? No, I wasn't even trying to cartoons. I was trying to watch some show. I think it was like a game show or something on one of the channels, and I couldn't because it was just news. And I was fucking
I would have
devastated.
been so pissed off at those terrorists if they got in the way of me watching SpongeBob.
Yeah, I didn't even know though. It was like the worst thing because I remember on that day they kept us at school longer and wouldn't tell us why. And I'm like, I want to just go home.
Oh really?
Oh, maybe
Really?
so, yeah.
I've heard like there was like a Naked Jakey video where he's like, yeah, they let us out of school early, and then later I realized that was because of 9/11.
They made us stay longer, I think, because they were trying to probably figure out like if it was a danger. So they like had us all in the they just kept us in the hall together, just sitting down, not doing anything. And it's like, why are we here? I don't remember why we're here. And like, obviously they didn't want to tell us like, oh, by the way, an international fucking terrorist attack. So eventually we get home. And yeah, I'm just like, thank God, I can finally watch my shows. And it's just like bumper to bumper news on every channel. And I was like, what the fuck?
Like, fuck.
I just cry.
It's like when Nickelodeon did that worldwide day of play where they just didn't play anything. They just had like a screen that said, go outside and have fun. I'm like, fuck you.
fuck
I'm watching
you.
Cartoon Network.
Fuck you. So I just get out of school. I need something.
Yeah.
I've been out all day.
You know, when we talk
both-
about 9/11 stories, I always think of when I went to Japan and we were at the fucking Evangelion bar, and they were telling us about how they had to make like radios in school. And they're like, yeah,
Oh, wow.
I remember we were making a radio, or like we were putting together a radio or something, and then when it came on, it went on to like a American broadcast. It was talking about how 9/11 was just happened or something. And I was like, y'all are 14 hours ahead. 9/11 would have happened at like 9 o'clock at night. Like, what?
What are you-
You were in school? What kind of fucking bullshit are you trying to feed me?
I mean, they would have been
to
talking
be
about
fair,
like
they
the
talked about it
day
forever.
after or something as
It might
well.
have been the day
Yeah, they
after,
would've-
but I think they're trying to imply that it was happening like in real time or something.
In real time.
And we were just
If
like,
you-
what?
if Is he trying to say like the radio had an effect on 9/11?
They were really into the Denpa.
Yeah.
Those fucking radio waves.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, prestige anime. Yeah, I feel like because I mean some of the most popular anime in Japan are fairly like overlooked or unknown
like
in the
horse
US.
one.
I mean, the obvious
horse one
answer is
called?
like Sazai-san.
Yeah, that's really big on the. To be fair though, I mean, what's interesting now, and I feel people have lost the knowledge of this, but it's like the ratings you get on television from anime have never been like some have done it right, but like it's not really that important. Like all of the anime on television now get like 3% at most. Like
Most of them air
it's
at like
'cause
3 in the morning.
maybe some get 5.
Yeah, it's because there's been a growing trend
ratings don't mean
over the
anything to them.
past 20 years from daytime animation to like late at night, basically. So obviously,
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
reason
you're
that
playing-
is that the broadcast cost is much cheaper, so you can actually buy the whole core sort of time, because usually, from what I understand, at least what I was told, and I think there's a book about it called like American Distribution of Anime or something like that. Came out in 2018. They say in the book that what would happen, if I remember right, is there wasn't usually adverts playing that late at night because no one's fucking watching them, but like it's just dead air. And like what would happen is these companies and their production committee would just buy up the slots so they don't have to worry about the ratings being good or bad, or like not particularly that bad. Because if they buy the airtime, it doesn't matter how good the ratings are. And no one was using that stuff at night, so it became a popular way of like, you can advertise your products and put on at 3 a.m. and likely make a profit on all the other media mix.
Well, it makes sense when you think about it, because like people will put on a DVR or a VCR or whatever to record anime that's airing at like 3 in the morning. They're not gonna do that for fucking adverts or infomercials or whatever.
yeah. So
Yeah.
let's look at the ratings here for like the week of December 4th to December
Probably
10th.
going to be 2 to 3% with, depending on the show, One Piece, Pokemon.
Yeah, so we got
Susan,
Sazai-san,
Society
Conan,
top usually. Yeah, Conan.
Maruko,
usually the higher.
Paimon. I mean, these are like your big 4 heavy hitters, basically.
Yeah, they're always on
And
there,
then Daigo, Firefighter Daigo,
I didn't know that was doing
which
well.
is yeah, that's surprising. It's up there with Frieren, believe it or not. They're both like
They're
Okay,
above
neck
Frieren
and
was
neck.
doing
Shin-chan, damn.
Shin-chan still goes
above
hot, yeah.
Shin-chan. Above One Piece.
I actually didn't know
I
Shibi
mean-
Maruko was still airing.
Oh no, that's why. That's exactly why. Because I mean, the ratings here are basically just determined by what the time slot is that it's airing
Yes.
in. So you'll notice that Daigo is airing at 5:30
That's
on
pretty
a
early.
Saturday,
Right after
which is
Doraemon.
yeah.
Might be. It's probably during dinner time, right?
Oh no, it's TV Asahi though. It's a different station.
But still, that's a pretty good time slot
Oh,
as
yeah.
opposed to like Frieren, which is airing.
That's late
know,
night, I'm
that's-
pretty sure, right?
That's like 11 o'clock at night
Yeah.
on a Friday, and it's
It's on
still
the edge of the
pulling a
beginning of
pretty
it.
hefty, a ton of views.
Yeah, I guess
Shin-chan's
it's
got a
pretty
good
popular.
time slot
because-
though, and it's right before Doraemon.
Yeah.
Kind of surprising.
And then
it's
you have
lower
stuff like
notes.
One Piece and Precure, which it's funny that we think, because usually when we talk about One Piece, we think of it as like, stuff that played on something that plays on Toonami,
Should be
late night
morning, right?
television,
'Cause
stuff
it's
like
a
that.
Sunday?
It's a Sunday morning cartoon in Japan.
Yeah, of course. Though, to be fair, I think One Piece has had a couple time slot changes over the years before they've really settled down. It sort of switched a couple times. So I don't think it
Okay.
might not have always been a Sunday morning, because, I mean, it's been running for 20 years, right? So the slots have been up and down. But I think that's where it's found the most success as a early show for people to watch. But I mean, it's 1,080 episodes in, so if it can keep any rating at all, it's quite a surprise.
Yeah.
You're not
Then
getting
of
new
course
audiences.
Precure, Jujutsu Kaisen, Spy Family.
Yeah, Spy
What should
Family
we
was doing
talk
really
to?
well. Because I remember reading an article a little while ago that was saying something like, Spy Family kind of shows that maybe they could put this on an earlier slot because they're noticing the amount of people just like TiVoing or recording it and then watching it later and being like, that actually makes the percentage of its ratings much higher, actually. So maybe we should be putting this on earlier. I don't know if they changed their mind in the end, if they put it on an earlier time slot for the second season.
It's still airing at like 11 on Saturday. So
Yeah. Well, it's not 2 a.m., I guess.
yeah. But
can't
yeah,
remember
so I
what the
guess it's
original
like
was
one
at.
of the things where it's like when we talk about like the big popular anime in Japan, I mean, people know what Detective Conan is. People like Detective Conan. People like Doraemon.
Yeah.
no one watched this as I saw because it's never gotten a home release, and then no one really talks about Chibi Maruko that much.
Yeah, and it's about different audiences and how they're advertised, because a lot of these shows are like they're like broader family demographic, where a lot of the anime that have came to the West specifically were things that were made for a more specific demographic in mind, if that be kids or probably like more otaku based media.
Or they just changed the demographic, like with Shinchan. Because have you ever seen the Shinchan dub?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's interesting because the English dub might be different. There's actually, I think, multiple dubs because we didn't get the Adult Swim dub. We got a different dub.
Okay. Interesting.
And that was on children's television.
Okay. Then, yeah, definitely was not the Adult Swim dub.
No. So it wasn't like raunchy or anything. But I mean, I don't think there was any like, some stuff might have been censored, but.
Well, I mean, like Shinchan itself it does have like a kind of like a vulgar, like childish sense of humor.
Absolutely.
But you know, they're not in like the American dub. They were talking about like, where the fuck is my vibrator? And I'm like,
yeah, no, that's not in the English version that I watched. Absolutely not.
No,
that's an interesting change. Maybe a bit too much.
Interesting.
Probably wouldn't do that nowadays, I'd expect.
Yeah, I feel like people don't talk about Shinchan's dub in the context of like dubs changing things, because like everyone always goes to like. These are like older shows now too, like Prison School or Dragon Maid, and it's like, why do these things
ancient
still matter? What?
I mean, I don't know. Is anyone actually watching the dub? Who cares about that? I watched this both subbed, so like I only heard about this in retrospect.
Yeah, I'm not watching the dub of Dragon Maid.
Yeah, neither would I.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch the dub of Shinchan.
Another dub that did that.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Was Super Milk
I
Chan.
mean, technically, I have, I guess.
Super Milk Chan, they just randomly changed shit for some reason.
I mean,
it's interesting about that, in that, like, I guess it was more of back in the localization of the 90s, it was just more common for you to do that sort of stuff. When you were adapting things, you kind of just, I like to, compare it maybe to when they dubbed Lupin II or Lupin Part 2 in the States for Adult Swim, they like would localize it quite heavily. So they change a lot of and people love it. Like nowadays, even still, they like, there's still like people fucking posting like the montages of like all the funny things they say in the dub.
Bobo has a pretty like well-regarded English dub as well, because in part because Bobo is already like a very like absurd show, so a lot of like the weird cultural references in Bobo wouldn't translate well, so they just become even more absurd in the English dub, and it still works.
I noticed. I mean, a classic one over here would probably be when I don't know if most people know it, but when they made the British dub for Invader Lum, it was like a parrot. It was like a joke. But I think it was nowadays it's pretty cold. I've seen people even do more versions of it now, or like on Twitter, they've people started like doing their own newer versions of it for the new show.
Interesting.
Just like little riffs of like the idea, because what it did, I think what was quite interesting is it completely localized the setting to be like Britain, so they completely changed the context of all the Japanese references to English ones, but like the sentiment of the episode is still the same, but like they did go pretty far on changing the dialogue and stuff to try and fit within the new kind of style of humor.
I'll never get Shinobu calling Ataru an utter shit out of my head.
Look, I mean, I think that's perfectly on brand.
It is perfectly in line with what she would say, but it's very British instead of being in Japanese, obviously.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing more, but like that, I think that's the last time the BBC ever cared about anime. There's something interesting situation with that.
Yeah, why we started talking about that was like someone was talking about Lex's video and was kind of confused on the Azuma quote where he's talking about like database elements.
Yeah, and how like otaku consume and interact with anime, basically, where they were like, they basically just didn't understand the idea of database consumption, essentially.
They kind of did, but they like because they were like, oh well, deconstructing the elements, like that's how you would assess it. That's how you want to like analyze something, by breaking it apart. It's like, well, yeah, but that's not really what they're talking about in this case.
That's not what he's talking about.
He's not talking about breaking down the animation and the story. He's talking about they're taking the character of like a Lum or somebody and removing her from the context of the story and just consuming her as a character in various other things.
Yeah, putting her in different contexts. Fuck it, put her in Fortnite. Come on.
And that's what we were talking about. That is,
it.
I think the West tends to consume things in a database perspective in that way, where it's like you're always thinking about what is the best kind. All the discussions in the West are always like anime of the year, anime of the season kind of discussion.
Yes.
Whereas,
what's the new hotness going on right now?
Right.
Yeah, they're very contemporary. Usually, I noticed that, but it's. I mean, maybe it's like the different. Even so, even like compared to like video game stuff, maybe that's the sour grapes of it. When you notice that like some dude can make a video about a game that never was localized from the 90s, and they can get 700,000 views. And I'm like, how the fuck would you do that with anime?
Kenny did it somehow.
I don't know how the fuck he did it. Maybe he found the secrets.
He performed a black sacrament.
It's not,
known Satanist Kenny Lauderdale.
But yeah,
certainly.
But
can't.
But yeah, I think also a lot of that's media mix though as well, isn't it? Be like the way these companies set you up to consume these things will affect how the audience will consume them.
Yep.
So because media mix is so based on that data approach.
So, like the interesting example would be an example used in database animals would be like the way like Evangelion works essentially, because
Evangelion is a really easy one to do.
Yeah.
The TV show for Evangelion, it's in part at least, trying to get you into like this more general sort of like media ecology, like franchise media mix. Of Evangelion, where it's like, then you got the games, then you got
books,
manga,
the light novels,
the doujinshi,
the
pachinko machines, fucking everything. But
the
none of these
Gainax game.
what I think the important distinction to make between something like that and like what you see with like Marvel or Star Wars is that the Evangelion Mahjong game is not canon to the Evangelion universe.
I mean, there's also I've recently been watching the live show, which is also radically different, but also similar. And it kind of, I think it's like the perfect epitome of that sort of media mix approach, where like all the characters are new, but you can tell, even though it's not being served, that these characters kind of do fit on some of the archetypes of what we know. Like there's a character that's a little bit like Osaka. There's a character who's probably a little bit like Shinji. And there's a character that feels like Shinji's dad kind of sort of set up, or like another character that's a bit like a Misato. Mm-hmm. And the mechas are similar, or they are the same designs, but like what's happening in the story, just a little bit different. The
most extreme example would be like Shinji Ikari Raising Project, where it's literally like, this is a different story, and we've then basically just taken these assets, these character designs, and like the names and stuff, and then we've just place them in a different context, tweak their personalities a little bit, and now the story is also completely different.
To be fair, in that case, like at least they're building that off of like kind of the idea that was introduced at the end of the series, where you have like the
I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I just mean like it's not like completely out of thin air.
No, well, actually, one of the most interesting ones I've read is Anima, because it reads kind of a bit more like a traditional follow-on than you usually get. And this is like during the Kara era. So this is, I think, one of the first like pushes for Kara when they like took the copyright over, I think, properly. Or somewhere in the era when it was like, this is Kara production, rebuild era, media mix now. Because you can read Anima basically as like almost a sequel to the TV show. Even though it's not super, like the details of what happens in it kind of would be closest to that. And you don't really see that in any other version. Even though like there's some very mild changes. I think Kaiji's still alive, but like, and the instrumentality project did kind of happen, but Asuka was the one that was almost taken, but Shinji saved her. So it's 3 years later, and like you're just basically following on from that tone of the original television show. Things are different, and they've added things to it, and now there are more Rei clones. And there's something else is going on.
There's more of them.
Yeah, there's like 5 of them, I think now.
It's like the end of that Resident Evil movie.
Oh yeah,
so that's like Ozuma's overall point when it comes to like how Evangelion as a TV show kind of like exists within this franchise, where it's not like this central pillar that everything else like kind of adheres to, but it's more so like rhizomatic, I guess. It's all kind of like spread out.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to get technical, the manga predates it by about a year. So, they started making the manga like publicly was put out first. So a lot of that, like, they all have that sort of like pillar foundations. And what's interesting, I think, about a lot of the extra media mixes, all of them have a new girl. Well, not all of them, but I suppose there's a good portion that have the new girl. And that starts with the Sega Saturn game.
Yeah.
So that's like
whatever her name is.
There's two of them. Because there's like the new girl in Impressions, but then later on, I think a year later, you get the new girl in Girlfriend of Steel. I think she's the more popular because she's been in multiple different adaptations.
Okay.
But it's interesting that starts there because when the rebuilds happen, you then get the fourth girl again. And it feels like, in some way, that it understands its media mix potential. That the fourth girl is now just a piece of the puzzle of what Ava is.
Right.
Well, hell, even in that retake Dojin, they have a fourth girl, which is like fucking it's Asuka's daughter.
Goddamn.
Huh.
Yeah, it's there's a lot. I would always be curious to know how much, because like I know a lot of the Gainax staff read retake. I would be curious because I'm pretty sure Ano read it. I'm curious like how many like ideas he was inspired by for the rebuilds with retake.
Well, the funny thing about it, and it might be a thing about the Ava document to begin with, in that like, some of these things might just been things on the cutting room floor for the original series. Because there is a big document of that stuff, which is what allegedly the PS2 game took all that stuff from. Because apparently that's where they got all their lore and shit from. Is that they have this big old document of like the Ava doc, and it's probably got all the like random lore shit and other random bits and pieces of ideas. Because what I noticed when I made, I guess segment to me, I suppose, when I made my video on Arno, I distinctly noticed that like the PS2 game took the beach imagery really seriously towards the end of certain story marks, especially Gendo's. Especially the good ending where he meets his wife on the beach, and that happens again in Rebuild. I was like, oh, so like this seems to be an idea that's been tenement to the series for quite a while. I know there's beaches in the original series too, somewhere, but it feels like these motifs have all been like they exist somewhere in some entity version of themselves.
Yeah, end of Ava ends on a beach.
Yeah, there's a beach there too.
Yeah,
beach.
We could probably like ask like Mark Steinberg to come on and talk about this at some point.
Yeah, he'd probably be a good guest for it.
I think a good example of like the consumption difference is when again at the Evangelion bar in Japan, when they asked me about Evangelion, they weren't talking about what did you think about this plot point? What did you?
That's which girl you like?
Yep, that was the only question they asked was Ray or Asuka, and I was like Masato, and they're like, oh.
And they're like, wild card.
Oh, Sugoi. They were very impressed. I said Masato.
they were very impressed. It's like, what's I'm just thinking of that. What's that 4chan post where it's like, this is real. This is official art of Misato. Did someone at Gainax have an adult woman?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I mean, many of them are married to adult women. I'm sorry, guys, if you didn't know this. A large portion of Gainax were married. They were not single by this time.
My life is a lie.
One of them was also married to a lady called Noriko, who was the person who the name Gunbuster was named after her.
What?
They named after a wife.
Gunbuster.
Yeah, they ripped it off by naming after their wife. Yeah.
I can't believe they put his wife in the name for the AIDS.
He forced his wife to change her name.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I can't believe they did that before they even made the show. Like when she was credited in like Nausicaa and stuff. That's fucking wild.
Damn.
But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, but like another like I guess interesting sort of divide between like Japanese and then like outside of Japan when it comes to like consuming anime is that MyAnimeList is obviously like a very like central pillar to how people consume and talk about anime in the West, whereas like I mean there are websites like that in Japan, but they're nowhere near as prominent.
No.
Yeah, maybe because maybe this is a strictly sort of more English community thing, but they have a real thing about seasonal watch-along kind of events. It feels like that's where a lot of the community holds tight. And even like Crunchyroll's whole business model was based on like, we sub it so quickly so that no one has to pirate it and they can watch it on our site and just pay us money.
Right.
Like that convenience.
And I think And I think that my theory for why that kind of divide exists, why you don't necessarily have like the sort of like seasonal discussion in like maybe more Japanese discourse, is that people in Japan, they are still watching a lot of this anime on TV essentially. So
yeah, sometimes it's the easiest way they can watch, which I think is a point brought up in anime's identity, is that like sometimes that's actually the most convenient way for a Japanese person to watch, is still to watch it at 3 a.m. So if you don't record it, you're kind of fucked.
I was going through like 2chan threads maybe like a year or so ago, and there was like a really large thread on Planetes, and I was like, what the fuck? Why are so many people talking about my favorite show? And it turns out it was just airing, and they were just doing reruns on like NHK or something.
Yeah, it's possible that it could have got a re-release, like a physical release at some point soon, which might have coincided with it.
Yeah, so
sometimes you do that.
There are things like that, whereas like we don't really talk about anime reruns here in like the US because we just consume stuff online.
No, though I suppose once upon a time they may have, like back in the 2000s, the mid 2000s.
Yeah, when stuff was much more geared towards television, but in like this age of streaming,
it's a very different age.
So many
now.
people are watching anime on like Crunchyroll and finding anime through sites like MyAnimeList rather than just through the linear format of television. I still dictating.
I still wouldn't doubt the power
of
Adult Swim, or Toonami as it's called, I suppose, in the States, because that has quite a strong viewership. And those anime, some of those have been definitely made by that site. Well, by that website. Because it's a website, we can also stream it now, I suppose.
Right.
Over there.
I mean, even stuff that's on Netflix can still like retain its popularity. Like again, like Oran or Maid Sama was another one that I was really surprised by, like how popular that show had, in how it had maintained its popularity. Basically just because it was on Netflix, and it was like one of the things that when you start watching anime on Netflix, it's one of the first things that the algorithm on Netflix starts to recommend.
I was gonna say the last time I remember them talking about reruns is like Katana Gatari, and that was only because the OPs changed for the rerun on TV. But I was gonna say that, but I remember here recently they were talking about reruns of Haruhi airing, and then they were gonna have an announcement afterwards.
I remember that. Yeah, it's another fucking media mix event, I'm sure.
It's not gonna be anything special.
I think it's interesting though for that, because I imagine it's because Kyoani wouldn't be really worth the money for them. That would be my guess, because like the amount of people in their production committee and also like the cost of Haruhi is probably not something they're getting a huge amount of money from.
Well, yeah, they don't have to.
Their other IPs.
They don't have to like bid for a Haruhi like adaptation anymore because they got their own IPs now.
Yeah, or even when they don't have their own IPs, they work with the people directly, and they usually become part of the production committee, quite a big part of it, with their TV partner, because I think most of their work is through a TV partner station, so they kind of have like this mixture of those two that are like the predominant force of their productions. So I feel like maybe it's not even like, at that point it's just like, nah, fuck it.
If I had to like speculate as to why the West might consume anime that way, it might be because like a lot of how people get into anime is online now. So like,
yeah, well, I'll give you an example of something, because in England the experience is very different, because anime is just not on television and hasn't been for a really long time. So there's a particular history that some people put it on Overfiend, and that caused a bit of a controversy, in that it moved television publishers from actually like taking on like things that aren't children's anime on television.
Check out
our episode with Study of Swords.
yeah, you know.
For more on that.
But yeah, so like a lot of the market over there was the rental market and like the buying of them. And then also because I noticed it when I was about 12, the difference had happened. So like you got a couple shonen shows on television, and then they just kind of stopped outside of like maybe Pokemon or like the other vague thing like a Yu-Gi-Oh! This is sort of like, the media mix shows.
Right.
So after that, I just started watching anime online at like age 12, and that's when it opened up a whole world of like things I probably wouldn't have watched otherwise, of fucked up shit. Accidentally seeing the first episode of Alpha and Lead or something, because I'm just going alphabetically off some pirate website, just clicking A, B, C, D, just going down the list and seeing what's there.
Smuggler did too. He went alphabetically on the list.
I guess we're other sides of the country, world, but it's still the same.
But yeah, like, because that's how a lot of people, I think, like, you have Toonami and Adult Swim and all that acts as like a gateway in a way. But like, if you're getting into like airing shows and like stuff that's airing in Japan.
There
Probably
was nowhere I could
Crunchyroll.
watch. Nowhere I could watch Death Note back then.
Yeah, Crunchyroll probably is not a lot of people's like introduction. Like now it probably is like by percentages, but it's like as far as people who have been in it for a while, Crunchyroll probably wasn't the introduction. It was probably
No.
a MyAnimeList or
Yes.
something is how you kind of find new shows in a way, like these database websites. And these
I certainly
database
remember it
websites.
popping up when I was about 16. I remember that site appearing around. So, a couple of years after I'd got into it, I think I remember starting seeing people talk about it.
Yeah, I think I made my
But
account.
that's like 13 years ago now.
I think I made my account like 2009.
Yeah, I might have been around the same
It's been a
time.
while.
I don't know how old I was then.
But it's like, since that whole website is made around this premise of like charting out all the stuff you've watched and rating it and all this, like you're gonna have you pair that with like this culture of like the Academy Awards and like Oscars and stuff. It's all like prestige. Like you always have this like mentality of like, oh, we have to watch the best thing, or like Breaking Bad has to be the greatest show on television and all this stuff. Like,
Yeah, it's strange.
it cultivates this weird like database mentality compared to like the Japan, where it's just like, oh, I like Love as a character, I just want to watch more Urusei Yatsura.
I mean, there probably is people in Japan who do it that way. I just don't know if it's as common. It's always
imagine,
hard
yeah.
to say, right? Because
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
I feel
absolutely.
even with the Mel crowd, like they are specifically a smaller demographic, I'm sure, of the whole community. Because I still know, I
Right.
mean, talking to other people, like apparently, the physical releases are still doing pretty good. Like the numbers they're doing are never being like higher for certain groups, even though they're not like the priority for the industry anymore. They seem to people still buying.
Well, it's interesting because like,
But I think
you have the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, right? And they're like really trying to push those, and no one in Japan really seems to give a shit.
So what's
Why would
so
they?
I don't. Well, so someone correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But as far as I'm aware, there aren't like, we have like the Emmys and the Oscars and the Grammys, these big televised events for like movies and TV and music and all this shit.
Game of the Year Awards.
Yeah, Game of the Year awards. I don't know if there's really any sort of there are award shows like that in Japan, of course, but I don't know if they're like televised. I don't know if they're like these big media events like they are here in the US.
I don't think so. I mean, most of the awards you see for like anime tend to be like animation category awards for different things, and I don't know if
Right.
they're
I mean,
televised
like-
or not, but they are like legit awards. You'll be like best animation of the year, or like best TV show, best short, or something like that, and they'll be
have,
part
like,
of the
the,
award for like a more broad media awards sort of festival. And usually, in, like,
I have like the Noboru
exhibition-
Fuji award just pulled up.
Yeah, no, Fuji Award is a pretty classic award approach, definitely, and it's been around for a really long time. And definitely, like those who win it, it's definitely prestige. I mean, like
It's
nobody
pretty
throws it.
prestige, yeah.
Like, you see how many times Miyazaki has won it, and even like you get a couple other interesting choices on there, like
Iwasa's one. No, I think there's like a separate category for more popular things.
Yeah,
For more, this is
well,
more
you-
like the
you've got things like what's it called, like the Green Whale, or what, I forget what the English translation of that title is. Is that one in the 2000?
oh yeah,
Glassy Ocean.
Yeah.
Glassy Ocean, yeah.
Which is-
I guess there is like the not the Seiyu Awards, the Seiyun Awards. There's like there's a science fiction award ceremony as well.
Oh yeah, I mean the sci-fi and anime communities have always been pretty connected too.
Yeah, what's the Seiyun Award, which is pretty popular as well. Although it's really funny, some of these are not really science fiction as we would think of them. Like I think they have like just fantasy stuff in here as well, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, sometimes they get like merged because it's like genre of works can get pushed in the same category.
Yeah, so there's not really they don't really have like the same sort of like red carpet award show televised event sort of thing in Japan, as far as I'm aware. So what's interesting about
anime, no, not as far as I know, but maybe that's because that's just a very Hollywood way of doing things.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're trying to do with the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. And this is where it gets weird because, I mean, think about it. Crunchyroll, I mean, it's owned by Sony now, but it's an American company
Yes.
that is meant to market Japanese media, specifically animation, to primarily American, but just generally non-Japanese audience.
An international audience, we could say.
Yeah. And so they have this, they create this award show in the style of like a Hollywood award show. And, you know, for like, it's you know, for the first couple of years, it's kind of like, you can tell it's like lower budget. It's kind of like the Game Awards in a sort of way, but you want that sort of legitimacy added to it. So how do you give these awards for this Japanese art form legitimacy? Well, you got to have it in Japan at a prime time time slot in Japan. But that creates a goddamn problem because you have an international audience, and you know Japan is in a time zone kind of. It's it's there with like Australia and like the Philippines, but it's not really a convenient time zone at prime time for a lot of the world.
No,
so
it won't be.
This award show for Japanese media put on by an American company, and I think the awards themselves are now being like presented in Japanese. Even though not a lot of Japanese people are watching it.
Is this kind of like them trying to up that authenticity, basically? Because they want to feel like to this foreign audience, they want it to feel like anime. And since their whole site, they're like, oh, well, we do it in English. They'll be like, oh, these are fucking posers. So they feel like it has to be in. But it does kind of limit their potential.
But in doing so, they're like they end up alienating their international audience, which is like their main demographic.
Well, how are they going to get people to do? Because isn't it the thing with these like Game Awards and other stuff? Isn't it that they get on like popular people to sort of make the audience be like, "Wow, I know that person. They're part of this too." It's a bit harder. You're going to like ship them to Japan, or you're just going to get the same free influencers that are stuck in Japan forever because of Kadokawa.
I think they do a lot of like remote stuff. Like they have like a remote studio.
That makes sense.
No, there were definitely people there.
I mean, like I feel like I remember like being like wrestlers and stuff. And I don't think they were there. But they were like
here we go. The
studio.
7th. Live from Tokyo, Sony official. So if I just like, scrub through here, I mean, now I remember.
Oh.
It's dubbed.
Why?
I guess they didn't expect people to read the subtitles.
So yeah, really goddamn weird to watch this.
Yeah, 97,000 views. I mean, I guess that's not so bad, but maybe for their global channel, they'd expect more views. I don't know.
Yeah, I forget what. Maybe what would be fun to do is, I mean, if they do it again like this, it's going to be in the middle of the night. So look out for that YouTube stream of if Mumi's not awake, I'll be there reacting to that shit.
I might be in the time zone actually, so I might be around.
All right, maybe we'll make an event of it.
Mm.
So here's like the 2021. Look, 500,000 views.
Yeah, that's
2021, 300,000 views.
Maybe people just thought the old one sucked. I don't know. I don't know what to tell them.
But yeah, so it's a weird sort of situation they've put themselves in, and I don't.
It looks to me like they've made the awards look more neutral. Like if you look at the logo now in comparison to what it used to look like in the imagery, it looks like they're trying to make it seem like it has. Again, maybe they're going for the prestige angle you're talking about, because now it looks like a generic like this is an award ceremony opposed to a Crunchyroll.
Yeah, now it looks like an actual sort of award ceremony as opposed to like a bunch of influencers sitting on a couch together like in previous years. Like
they're just feeling kind of awkward.
Yeah, let me see if I can like pull up. I remember I think it was like the 2021. They just had these really, really funny VTuber rigs.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, to be fair, you couldn't pay me to go to one of those fucking award ceremonies.
Oh, you could absolutely pay me.
Oh yeah, we would definitely go. Crunchyroll Anime Awards. You want us to sell out? We'll come cheap.
I remember. Oh god, I think it was one year. Like the host just had like a rap music video in it. It was so embarrassing. Yeah. It was like 2019. To
be fair, most award ceremonies are pretty embarrassing.
They are.
They're never really just as simple as like, oh, and this won the award.
So, yeah.
Great. Well, congratulations. So another thing, the Crunchyroll awards, right? So like, isn't this like a conflict of interest in terms of what if the show doesn't come out on Crunchyroll? Could it still be in the awards?
Be quiet. Stop asking these questions. You're not allowed to ask these questions.
Because it's like, what if, like, for whatever reason, I don't know, like, it's just Frieren. Frieren's really popular, right? So what if that was just not on Crunchyroll? and it was on Netflix only or something, would they just be like, never heard of it? What the fuck are you talking about? Shut up.
You know, Frieren, what the fuck is that? We never heard of this thing before. I mean, that's always been like the thing with the Oscars as well. It's because the Oscars are owned by the Oscars air on, I think it's ABC, and ABC is owned by Disney. So there's like a conflict of interest there as well.
Yeah, and there's a huge hand of influence there.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's one of those things too, where it's like the Crunchyroll Anime Awards used to be really fun to watch because you would just laugh at them and how like shit they are. And now that they're like trying to make it like a prestigious award show,
is it just boring?
It's not. It's boring, and it's not really. I don't care, and there's nothing interesting like to really talk about. Now it's just like a boring ass award show that I want to see. I want to see nerds embarrassing themselves.
You think this might be a Sony decision? Because it's now on Sony's global channel.
It's absolutely a Sony decision.
Sony looks at them and was like, we don't like what you're doing with the awards. We don't like the bits. We don't like the thing. We want it to like, you're making a mockery of the of anime.
I could absolutely see that being the case. Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we're going to do it in Japan. It's going to be a proper awards ceremony. Like this is supposed to give them. Because I don't know if it goes the other way around, where they're like, and for foreign, because you sometimes see when I look through quotes, you sometimes hear people say this, like, when you get a foreign award, it's like prestige for like Japan.
Right.
Oh, the Americans like this, so it's Americans love this anime. They give an award. What's that?
Right.
So like, are they trying to like really big that up in the same way as like an Oscar would be for like Miyazaki or whatever?
But then I think it's either here towards the start, they're also like emphasizing like how like. This is like a international, anime is loved all over the world. It's this international phenomenon, which it is.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true.
So then why, but it's also, then it's like how you're navigating this though in a really weird way where now it's just in Japan and now it's clearly not reaching the, wide international audience at less than 100,000 views that you're ostensibly trying to connect with. It's very strange. And
I guess the soft power wins out in the end, right? I think they're thinking like, well, we want the award to have the right soft power message.
I guess, yeah.
Where it is Japanese red. This is Japanese industry. These are Japanese people. We don't want your weird American Twitch streamers defining our fucking awards there. Right?
And you know what? Fair enough. But it's also, I guess it's not like, now it's just kind of like,
yeah, you're not going to get a huge bump in views from people who like.
No, well, because like award shows like these are dying anyway. Like the Oscars are down in ratings. No one fucking cares about this stuff.
Yeah, but I think again, I guess it depends what Sony's actually interested in the end. Are they actually interested in viewership, or are they interested into a specific kind of
in like
thing?
Sort of again in that sort of prestige?
Yeah, and it could be a prestige thing for Sony, I suppose. It's hard to say because I can't read their minds. I don't know what the fuck Crunchyroll wants to do. It looks like right now that all they're doing is just conglomerating the market and just buying everything up and scoping.
Yeah, because they've absorbed Funimation and now they've absorbed Right Stuff.
Yep.
So they own the streaming and now they own merchandise distribution. So
and they already had that like small Crunchyroll store, I think, in the past. Now I guess that becomes just more predominant.
Yeah, it's all just the Crunchyroll store now. You go to you buy something on Discotech, it takes you to the Crunchyroll store.
That's fucking bleak. For them to own basically the market in such a bold way.
Yeah.
It kind of happened here because Manga Video, who were like basically the English Irish group that also funded Ghost in the Shell, so they have like historically connected to the anime industry. They did a third of the funding for Ghost in the Shell. They gave funding to Ghost in the Shell Incense. I think they gave funding to other projects too. They've dubbed stuff. They put out a lot of that stuff back in the early days. They were absorbed by Funimation, I think back in 2014, and their whole website was wiped. And it had all these like interviews and archive stuff, and it was like quite fucking like, oh shit, that fucking sucks. Even interviews with like some pretty important interviews with Arno when he was actually talking about what happened with Nadia were like just wiped from the internet. I had to find an archive of them. It's lucky I had them. I already had the link, or I probably would have never found it again.
We talked about this on stream once, but I guess if anyone listening wants like a bit of an alternative to the Crunchyroll store now that Right Stuff is dead, we're not sponsored by this store or anything like that, but we have talked about them on stream before, and I just like the way their website looks. It's like got that classic web design look.
Damn, that's an old school as hell.
Yeah, Robert's Anime Corner Store, animecornerstore.com.
That's very old school.
And despite
yeah.
how it looks, they have like contemporary anime releases on here. Like they've got
Just
what
like
is this?
the,
A Dress Up Darling Blu-ray box
shit, they
set?
got,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's a Japanese one, is it?
Maybe.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's like the Media Blaster website. It always looks a bit like that.
Yeah. So I guess if you want contemporary, like I guess it's like maybe like a secondhand sort of thing. I don't know how the business is. Maybe it's also a horrible business and I'm just completely oblivious to it. In that case, whoops.
We're not we're not affiliated.
We are not affiliated. We're not sponsored.
We're not recommending you actually use.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. It seems like a cool website. So if you're pissed off about Right Stuff being absorbed into Crunchyroll, and you, like many other people, hate Crunchyroll, I don't know. Check this out because they have a lot of stuff too. They got like I think they also have hentai on here as well.
Okay, so yeah, because Crunchyroll definitely won't have that.
No, they will not. They have some production cells and reproduction cells.
Interesting.
Figure, a lot of neat stuff on here.
Buy your porn directly from Robert Ronan himself.
No, not Robert.
No relation to Bob Samurai.
No relation to Robert Ronan, aka Bob Samurai.
Goddamn.
Yeah, really, this is a cool store.
Because I was going to say, a lot of the thing with Right Stuff is that it's pretty localized towards the American-Canadian side. Like, I wouldn't buy anything from there because like the cost of importing would be ridiculous.
Yeah, well,
and
also, I guess it's also any DVDs or any Blu-rays you get from them also will be like a different region. So what's like who does the anime stuff for the UK? I forget the name of the.
It's usually nowadays I think it's Anime Unlimited or Anime Untitled. What's it called? Anime Untitled, or is it All the Anime? Is usually sometimes the term.
All the anime, yeah.
Yeah.
They have some pretty good releases.
They not bad. They have some of their issues of them being very like old school, and they used to be independent, so I used to have a lot of respect for them. And then recently they got bought by some mega company or something. So it's a bit like,
this is just how it goes, huh?
Yeah, you can't fucking have a nice thing for long, I guess. Because as soon as Manga Video was like gone and Funimation brought them, that they were basically then the market, and they do a lot of distribution and stuff. There's some nice releases on them. They're like I said, they're a bit old school in that they still sometimes split animes that don't need to be into two parts. Like I'm talking like 25 episodes anime. It's like suddenly we'll have a 12 episode and a 12 episode. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Huh?
Yeah.
It's not.
I guess it could be worse. You could have like the Japanese thing of like, here's 3 episodes.
Oh god, yeah.
$60, please.
Yeah, but see, that just doesn't really fly these days. Like no one's gonna buy that.
Mm-hmm. Oh god, no! I have no idea why anyone would buy that. I mean, I guess if you really like the series.
Yeah, I mean, if the idea would have been back in Japan that like you buy the show so they keep making it or whatever, you participate in the media mix so it can exist.
But that's not obviously for people like us outside of Japan. That's not how this.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any difference now.
We buy the things and then companies like Crunchyroll pocket the money.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the production committee, which is where Toshio Okada, we were saying earlier, was correct, is that like it's not for those people to make money. It's not for the actual studios usually to make money. It's for the giant, like the 5 different groups of big companies to make the money, and then they give the money to the studio to participate in making more stuff, maybe.
What did you say? Like the licensing from a licensing deal from Crunchyroll can make up an anime's entire budget?
Yeah, it can. I mean, in theory, like because you can get $100,000 per episode, even more sometimes. I mean, I can't imagine how much Chainsaw Man would have gotten, because Chainsaw Man didn't even have a production committee. So like, and the Crunchyroll took them predominantly on.
No, I thought it did, but from what I understand, Mappa was not on the production committee.
There was no production committee for Chainsaw Man.
There was no production committee for Chainsaw Man, huh?
Nope, not at all.
There's no
they specifically went out of their way. So basically, Mappa took on the whole cost of it. They basically got the backing of Shonen Jump, was it?
Oh no, I'm thinking of other stuff because I mean, Mappa's just producing so much shit now. There are some anime they are producing where them as the studio are not on the production committee, which
maybe
is
that's for like Jujutsu Kaisen, because Jujutsu Kaisen sounds like it's pretty compromised. I don't know.
There's been a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I haven't even been able to follow all of that stuff because it's just like, I mean, people have been saying for years the anime industry is like on the verge of collapse.
Yeah, you do hear it
because it is.
Yeah, it just depends on what that means.
Yeah, well, the key problem that everyone seems to be pointing to is that people are dying, and there's not enough, new blood being brought into the industry to replace the dying veteran animators. So,
no, and it's something I kind of brought up in the video, is that like a lot of the, even going back to the 80s, there's kind of like this invisible hand trick where like they will just bring in people internationally quietly.
Yeah.
However that might be. Like I said with Frieren, like episode 10 of Frieren has 3 different like outsourced productions. I think 2 of them from South Korea, one of them might be from Shanghai.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes down to in-betweens, cleanup, freelancing, key animation.
That's even happening now with just production assistants just pulling people off Twitter. People who don't even live in Japan. Who maybe just have animator in their Twitter bio, and they're like, "Hey, can you do layout work for us?"
I mean, hiring people underage is probably the lowest bar you can get to.
Let's go, guys. All right, so here's the anime industry's next move: child labor.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
go undercover. I'm gonna put a lollipop profile on my my next thing. I'm gonna become a gonzo journalist. This is a literal anime gonzo journalist. I'm gonna be like, I'm 16. I put I'll shave my beard and I put a lollipop and a spinny hat on, and I'll put animator in Japanese, and I'll see if anyone takes the bait.
I feel like you're just gonna get DMs from actual pedophiles trying to groom you as well.
And I'll be like, okay, but do you work for the anime industry? So that's.
Do you work for the anime industry?
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, sure. But tell me, did you work for the anime industry?
Yeah. I'll send you nudes later. But do you work? Do you work? But I do think, we are. That is something we talked about in our video as well. Is that I do think there is going to be a greater sort of push towards internationalization, globalization, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to how anime is made, because clearly, unless there are major structural changes made in the Japanese anime industry, specifically the Tokyo industry, in the next decade or so, you're probably gonna really start running into problems.
Yeah, and there's some other interesting elements that I suppose. I mean, there was already a deal made, apparently. I think one of my books was saying that there's a 2018 Shanghai deal that was already made about like those 2 companies like connecting their pipelines a bit, because they're both obviously producing a lot of animation. So the idea, I suppose, is them like trying to, I guess, train up people in China specifically on those things they might need, if it be cleanup or in-betweens or whatever else. Well, I guess the other thing is, like, if these streaming services collapse, they might also fuck it up, because I think there's such a huge revenue source for these. Like I said, the licenses are so big. Like, even for like small shows, because Crunchyroll just needs everything. Or like Netflix, they're gonna have a little fight about it, and the money they're gonna get out of those licenses is not really for the studios, but it's big for money for the fucking companies.
I mean, I don't think the streaming bubble is going to pop. I think it's certainly going to contract, and we're already seeing evidence of that contraction now. And I could definitely see that
the problem is
a lot of productions.
I could see it making the industry have to decide to be smaller, but I don't know. It depends. They might just take the negative cost on themselves, because most of them are in debt anyway.
Yeah. As long as like the machine can keep chugging, it will, I guess.
Yeah, that's a kind of interesting side effect of that.
Well, what I was saying in the movie, is like, I mean, to a certain extent, you could also maybe even argue that the anime industry itself is entering a sort of bubble at this point, because, I mean, revenue has been going up, but it's mostly been driven by a growth in international revenue.
You certainly see that. I mean, there's a little uptick after COVID, so they're still there, and there's still money to be made. The movie money has been doing fairly well for certain studios. Though what that does do, and you see it happen, is it creates this sort of like scooping effect, where like the biggest studios with the most money, with the biggest projects, will scoop up all the movie level animators as fast as possible. So any smaller movies then has to really fight to get anyone, unless they just train all their staff themselves. And you've been seeing that for years. That was a problem with Oko's In back in the day. Even though I guess it's not that long ago now, I guess 2019, 2018, there was like 3 big anime movies being worked on at the same time, and they just physically couldn't like compete for the animators, because the project didn't sound as enticing to those freelancers who were at the top. Because it was just like, oh, little girl runs an inn, they're like, nah, I'm going to work on something else.
And then, then of course there are also like these, like there was a big tax reform that
that's another
pushed
thing
through and recently came into effect, and that could also just end up fucking over freelance work, which basically forms the backbone of the animation industry.
Yeah, there's that recent report that came out. Now we don't know if it's complete, like a complete reflection per se, but there looked to be an uptick in salary workers, and it's possible that if freelance goes that way, that they might have to go back to having more internal salary workers, which might actually be good for them overall.
That may be a more positive. Change.
But I mean, I don't know if obviously if you fuck over freelancers who can't go salary, that's going to be, it's not great for anyone, but it means there's going to be a crisis there.
And then there are also, of course, implications regarding like the whole like doujin industry as well. Because obviously a lot of these creators want to remain anonymous, but if they have to like file out all this like tax information, then that becomes a problem. If it's like on some registry with their real name, maybe they don't want to be associated personally with like the stuff they're creating, stuff like that.
I think there's some talk about that a while ago because of the VTuber industry also talking about this. I mean, the VTuber their name on a register, basically, and it'd be like, well, that's not good for our clients at all. And I don't know if they ever fixed how that was going to work.
Another thing you need to look at, I guess, is like the merchandising industry too. I know they've been running into manufacturing issues because the price of plastic has gone up, where you see like this kind of inflation of their character goods stuff, like figures and stuff have gone up quite significantly over the last 15 years. So
this
that could definitely play a part.
It's an interesting side effect because it's like where the distribution of these things are and how that can suddenly, like what used to be bountiful suddenly stops. There's an issue in England with this because, locally where I live, like with Aardman, apparently Plasticine has like the main producer of Plasticine is like retiring, and it's made by like one dude. So like them being like, oh fuck, are we going to be able to get enough plasticine together to make a movie, basically? Because the distributor we used to get is retiring, thus not making anymore. And it's that. I
guess it's a similar situation to what happened with like Cells like 20 years ago.
Yeah, and that was the writing was on the wall for that. As soon as it was possible for people to make a DigiPaint movie. The idea of that actually lasting was probably going to be a fever dream. It was eventually. It was more of like an if, but
Yeah, it was going to happen eventually once computer technology progressed to a certain point. Although I don't know if anyone expected that for cell production to just, it's completely dead now, isn't it? No, I don't think anyone's really
buy acetate, but it's very expensive. Okay. I mean, you call it acetate, right? Just like thick pieces of plastic that you could use. But but you would buy them like a novelty thing. You don't buy them in bulk like you could then. Like if you need 100,000 sheets, you're not going to be able to get them. I don't think anyone's distributing that many.
I mean, well, if you're making animation like that nowadays, you're doing it as a novelty because there's no reason to go through that fucking hassle.
It's horrible. I've done it myself. It's a terrible process. In terms of, I mean, maybe some people like that, but like nowadays, if you see anyone doing like more traditional stuff, they do it on paper, like what's it called, puparia. I see that shit, and that fucking drives me insane because I know how that is. I've been there, but when I see him, he's just scanning every fucking page. I'm like, bro, you need to get a camera set up. Because I know the difference. I've done both. Like
just trying to think of like I guess there's stuff like Loving Vincent, I guess, but that's also kind of different.
Yeah, well, that's like oil paint. That's literally oil portraits. Yeah. So that's like a weird thing. But they would have been photoed too. I don't think they would have scanned those in because oil paints take forever to dry. So like the idea of scanning them in would be fucking ridiculous. You wouldn't do that. You'd smear them all over the place.
Probably fuck everything up. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd have to get like
because the way the movie was made, like. You're not doing a new painting for every frame, but rather every cut is basically like they're just painting over the previous frame, essentially.
They do it on glass. Or they do it like that.
Oh, they're doing it on glass? Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Are they doing it on glass or are they doing it on canvas? Because usually... I want
to say it's on canvas because you can't buy the paintings used in the movie.
Okay, but it's definitely on canvas. You wouldn't be able to do it on glass. Well, like that film, what's it called? Old Man at Sea? I think that also won a Nobel a Fiji Award. You can
I think so, yeah.
That's yes, because that one is a glass paint. I've done glass paint before as well. It's pretty good, but you need to have a setup for it. And that involves having like 2 lights, a room, and like a camera on a crane or something. So you have all the set. It needs to be like a dark room, even lighting, glass on the floor, camera pointing at it with connections to a battery pack or something, like plugging it into the wall for power so it doesn't die. So it's
Didn't you do some watercolor stuff for that like Ghibli food cut?
Ooh. Yeah, I did. Did I? Let me try to remember. Yes, no, I did. I'm can't even remember myself now. My brain doesn't work that way. No, I did the backgrounds. I did. I painted the backgrounds with a watercolor because I was like, I thought at that point I was like, well, if I want it to look proper, I'm gonna have to paint it properly. So I painted it. And I did a couple of like touch ups digitally, but I painted them and I scanned them in. Though did a bit of a botch job, but you know.
I remember like watching the Ghibli food video and you talking about that process. And I'm like, wow, this seems like a complete fucking headache for how long was that cut? Less than 5 seconds?
Yes, it was like probably just over 3 seconds, maybe 4. I think I bulked up a bit just by like making it repeat a little bit more just so you get a feel for it.
The joy of animation.
Yeah, and I think it's all about choosing your cuts too. I chose one which I was like, don't actually know how I'd fucking do that. Instead of being like, why didn't I just do like steam on fucking still food? Like that would have took like a week.
That would have been, that would have been so much easier.
But I was like, no, I can't do that. I have to be different.
Got to do the Miyazaki making ramen. Yeah,
I have to be like, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to redo this bit, and if it works or not at the end is another question. But that's like the animation process is that kind of level where you at the end you kind of realize how little you know. And maybe a lot of people in the industry feel that way.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in terms of like the anime industry collapsing, I was talking to Mumi about this because we were watching a video on like the AAA industry possibly being in a bubble. It more than likely is that will like eventually pop or contract or is contracting at the moment.
AAA game.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and my point was that I don't think that we're going to see a collapse in these industries unless other more major sectors of the economy really take a hit. Like if we see another 2008 like real estate collapse, something along those lines, okay, then everything's fucked.
I mean, the assumption I have, what makes it quite different, is that like the video game industry involves, the AAA one especially, involves huge amounts of money. We're talking to make a game. We're talking like $50, $100 million, maybe more, depending on the thing. Like, you know, probably $1 billion or something stupid for like Rockstar, who can populate that. Yeah. When it comes to like an anime series, right, most television shows, they're going to be made for a couple $1 million. So, like, there's a huge difference in like it's pennies in comparison. Usually the problem is always going to be the resources, like them trying to get enough people who actually work on it.
Right.
That's going to be the line factor. But though, of course, the anime industry has already had many like booms and busts over the years, but they seem to find new ways of evolving. Yeah, because you had the rental market, and the rental market died. So like that was like, you know, during the OVA era, you really see the rental market take off. And eventually you see, here's the video era. So you've got the video DVD kind of era coming around this time. That kind of rises to its peak to about 2006. And a little bit later that you started seeing it decline quite severely. And then the crash happens, and that like completely destroys the DVD bubble, and that bursts. And you see the aftermath of that being things like Media Blaster goes out of business for those things when they had their like final.
Media Blasters isn't dead yet.
No, it did die though during that period.
Yeah, they did die,
and they stopped funding anime.
Yeah.
So you see that kind of side effect, but you also see things like Gonzo went out of business.
Yep.
They got liquidated basically, and they got bought back by their like parent company. So like I guess after 2009, they were pretty much gone as well in terms of how their original version of themselves as one of the I guess Gainax's further arms. And there's some alleging that the reason that happened is they put maybe too much emphasis on their international market.
But yeah, I do think that we are probably due for another sort of like contraction in the anime industry.
I would not be surprised with Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll's fucking blown out.
In terms of how that happens and how the anime industry will adjust after that, I don't know. That's a question to ask like Kevin on Twitter. Someone who's like more in touch with the anime industry than me.
Sure, I mean, I think some of it's always going to be very hypothetical because until it happens, no one really knows how it's going to go.
Yeah, no one has a crystal ball.
You know, it's like the you feel a bit like what's that guy? You know, the fucking the neoliberal guy, the Fukushima, is it? What's his name? No, he's like the end of the world or whatever. Is it the end of time? Is it neoliberalism?
Oh, the end of history guy.
What the
fuck is his name?
I thought it was Fukushima. Am I making that up?
Fukuyama.
Fukuyama, there you go. Yeah, I pretend I always said it. Yeah, his name's Fukuyama.
Fukuyama,
His
yeah.
name's Francis Fukuyama. I said that myself. I totally did not just get that from someone else. Yeah, I know these things. But yeah, I feel like it's a bit like that, right? Where it's just like the end will never be near it is. It keeps seeming like it's going to die, but it doesn't.
Nope. It will find a way to limp on in some way or another.
This has been a downer episode.
Oh,
This has been a really depressing
let's talk about
episode.
something nice now.
I've been waiting for you, Mui, to field
Lighten the
another
mood.
question to get us out of us talking about economic doomerism.
Oh, you've been waiting on me too? Okay. Steve,
Yay.
so people that aren't like privy to, I guess you talk about a lot of like what you're watching and stuff, like on your Patreon and stuff.
Yeah, I do that sometimes.
Anyone that isn't like sub to that, like might
Mhm.
not
Oh, okay.
be aware of like your watching habits and stuff like that. So what kind of stuff do you watch, or like have you been watching lately?
Oh, okay. Let's see if I can remember. I think for this month I was probably gonna I was gonna see probably Godzilla tomorrow.
Oh hell yeah!
And I was probably going to maybe have a quick talk about the dub because I'm out of country right now. But I think last one, I tend to just throw whatever I've been watching, like, well, I eat. That tends to be how it goes, right? So, like, I ended up watching, like, Invincibles for the first time, even though I read it back when I was, like, a kid. Well, I don't know, a kid. I was, like, 19 probably. I read a lot of it at the library. And I was like, oh, I should totally read the rest of this, and I just never did. So I finally got to actually watching it. And then I realized that... because I thought season 2 would come out all at once, and it was just like, oh, no, it's coming out weekly, and there's a big gap too. So I just stuck now. And I watched Frieren too. I think I was talking about that. What else did I see recently? If I can remember, fuck, I don't know.
It's like me trying to remember what I ate for breakfast.
Yeah, like who the fucking remembers what they do like yesterday? I did. Oh, you know what I saw recently? You know what I saw a bit recently? The Phoenix version on Disney Plus. They made that new Phoenix show.
Oh, the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, I guess it's like
that
4
was
episodes.
fucking weird.
Yeah, it's certainly pretty weird.
Yeah.
I,
Like an
I, ONA. I was genuinely curious about it because I was like, because I knew it's 4C. Made a whole video about 4C once upon a time. So I was kind of like,
Phoenix Eden 17.
yes, this really weird title, and I was curious how it went because I've read a bit of Phoenix. I've seen some earlier adaptations. Because the more popular adaptations are going to be stuff during the earlier arcs, especially with like the sort of ancient Japan kind of setting.
Yeah.
But this one is far future, and it is a kind of Oedipus complex redoing of Garden of Eden, I suppose, or something like that.
There's something weird going. Yeah, it's very Tezuka.
Yeah, and I feel it must be pretty close to the original because, like, some of the way they go about it is a little old school, and I'm like, okay, so I think this is going to be some of the classic Tezuka. It is interesting in ways, just that like Disney doesn't even have like an anime category as far as I can tell. So like it's just thrown out there, and like depending on the country, I've noticed that it can vary from country to country. They have like either like
Disney
10
Plus
anime
Japan,
or 5.
Disney Plus in Japan specifically seems to be able to get away with like a lot more adult like centric content. Like well, they did like the sequel to Tommy Galaxy,
Yes.
Tommy Time Machine Blues.
Yeah, I saw that one there.
Summertime Render, which has a lot of fan service and horrific violence, is also on Disney Plus Japan.
Yeah, they just don't market them effectively. But what I was
they don't get put outside of Japan basically.
Yeah, well, there's some of them. I mean, I noticed some of them on there. At least Summertime Blues is it? That one is definitely here.
Okay.
What was I saying? Yeah, but what I noticed the most that was really like clear to me is that there's no dub. So instantly I was like, oh, they don't give a shit, do they? Because I was just thinking, like, when you get something on Netflix and they do it, they dub it in like every language.
They do it into
possible.
every goddamn language.
Yeah, and they sometimes wait until it's finished so they can do that, so they can hit it with that.
Yeah.
But then Disney's just like,
Netflix.
you can have. Yeah, you can have it, but like also don't forget to turn the subtitles on because that won't come on automatically either. It will just be in Japanese.
Yep.
And you go, oh, that's very unprepared.
alienate your audience, I guess. Which I mean, yeah, no one. It kind of just arrived, and I was like, Oh yeah, that's the thing. And we just watched it one Saturday in our server, and our collective response was,
It's pretty weird.
what the hell did we just watch?
Yeah.
Because it's constantly shifting.
Yeah, that's very Tezuka. He's always moving very fast.
Yeah.
The thing that's lost in this, because like this is played very like seriously and straight. Like you've read Phoenix, haven't you?
Yeah, I've read it a bit. It's pretty comedic at times, yeah.
Yeah, it's very very inspired by like slapstick like Disney kind of stuff. Like there's like scenes where like
Old
people
school
get
Fleischer.
thrown through a panel or something. Or they're
Sometimes
like
there's,
looking at the previous panel.
Yeah, there's
Even Tezuka's like more serious stuff, like what is, Message to Adolf will still have like comedic bits in it.
he's a bit of a jokester. I mean, there's definitely parts in the manga where they're just characters like shit on the floor and just fuck around like that. So it gets like pretty. And a lot of the adaptations tend to sort of move away from that stuff a little, maybe because they don't know how to like quite hit that tone.
Right. Yeah.
Have you seen the 2004 adaptation?
I have not. I think it's the same director though, isn't it? How much do they cover on that?
They cover like 5 arcs.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if it's necessarily in order. I forget the exact order, because I know that they didn't adapt the arc that everybody loves. Like I think
That's
it's
number 4. I
volume
think.
4. Yeah. They
Because
didn't adapt that.
that one's already been adapted, and I think it's fairly. It's a pretty good adaptation by Madhouse back in the day.
Yeah, I don't think they covered that in the TV series.
It's pretty solid.
That was
That
was a Tezuka studio production.
Yeah, Tezuka Production. Well, the thing is, Tezuka Productions tends to work alongside sometimes Madhouse and some others, just because they have that kind of co-production situation. But because a lot of Madhouse was Mushi Pro people, so some of them still have ties to the thing. So you see them kind of like working together sometimes, like with Metropolis and that sort of stuff.
I would say that's probably like the closest to a faithful adaptation of Phoenix I've seen. Like it still keeps in kind of the silly, it keeps in the silly stuff. It's not like
it's not a Rintaro adaptation,
right?
Which is other one is.
It does have Sugi on some of the episodes though as episode director, which is
that's interesting. He's old Mushi Pro as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely not what I was expecting. Especially interesting to get 4C to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'd actually forgotten this was a 4C production as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's because they have a bit of a history kind of doing a bit more like international work, which again goes back, I suppose, to the anime video I was saying about like how, to me, sometimes there's a point, and I noticed this even when I talk about that, how do we archive everything they've ever done, like in a like convenient list? Because even when it comes to like, outsourcing stuff, because if you want to talk about them and their history, like, or just want to know what they've done, if we only limit it to the stuff that's like really, really, they're really definitely sure is anime or something stupid like that, you're gonna miss it, like all this whole other chunk of stuff.
Well, I mean, because like these anime studios, they are doing like television and film animation, but they're also working on things like commercials. Video games,
some commercials do get put on like MyAnimeList and stuff. It's just like kind of arbitrary.
Yeah,
like they had a Photoshop commercial that's on MyAnimeList. That's a pretty popular one.
There's the famous Evangelion chic commercial.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
The McDonald's Cult Studio Colorado commercial.
Yeah, it's weird how they.
I wonder if they had the Suntory Penguin beer commercials. Probably not.
I don't know. No, I don't think they did.
Well, an interesting one I remember, and I think it's gone now, is that at one time, because they snuck on Thundercats onto, which is a 4C show. It was like a 4C TV, but it was made from I guess Cartoon Network. So usually it's considered like outsourced work, even though technically they directed it and worked on it, did the character designs, etc. So they were pretty involved in it, and it's one of their longer term members who's done stuff on the other side of like a lot of outsourcing or working with different companies, usually Warner Brothers. And again, it's Warner Brothers because Cartoon Network. But that was on Mal for a bit, and I think at some point someone realized and was like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna slowly move that off." Because I guess maybe that happened during Scott Pilgrim, because I remember it used to be on there, like in a really small number, and people were like, "Huh? Why is this on here?"
Yeah, I remember that being like a big kind of like discourse thing. It's like, if Scott Pilgrim is on here, why the fuck is the Animatrix on here?
Yeah, Animatrix is definitely more of a. I mean, I bring this up in the video because I feel like at best you can say like, if we're going as far as possible, the Animatrix and Scott Pilgrim are very much the same level.
I still don't know why the fucking Transformers movie is not on my anime list.
I don't know because that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at who worked on that? Because there's actually a bunch of people from Sunrise on it as well.
Yeah, it's almost like if you remove the context of like it being a Hasbro property, it's just it is just an anime, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, it's a co-production. It's always been a co-production though, because there's always been Japan involvement in terms of like the toys lines and stuff like that. Had a connection to Hasbro on that side, and then there's also Marvel's involvement. Because originally the way Transformers worked, for I understand, is that some of the premises were built of Marvel writers who then worked with Japan and Hasbro. And then it sort of all comes together. Because some of those character designs came from Japanese members, like Obari, who designed, I think, a couple of the Transformers, the more iconic ones.
They did the Starscream from Macross, so...
Yeah. And even the folding Transformers stuff is definitely like, you can see the points of reference there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, definitely
makes for a great toy.
But yeah, that's where like the Transformers movie feels like it would be fine to put on there as a co-production, just because like it's so many like Sunrise members, so many Toei members, and it is basically animated strictly by Toei and whoever they got on top of that. And they're all like mecha people from the 80s, and there's the lasers. It's very much of the era. I guess people look a little
giant
strange.
robots fighting each other. I mean, it's not a whole lot different than like Gal Gaigar.
Yeah, and some of the people who worked on Guy Gaigar probably did work on this as well.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, well, I guess not to like, I guess just repeat the Scott Pilgrim video. That go check out the Scott Pilgrim video that
I might want to.
Steve has done, and then our video as well.
Yeah. Actually, you probably need more views. You get it. We can get more crazy people watching your one.
Although, wow, okay, I guess we're just gonna get patronized on our own fucking pod. But
it's fine. Just go pin a comment on your video saying before you make a shitty comment, just go watch the Weeb Crew video.
Leave your shitty comments on our video.
Yeah,
we'll take them.
Yeah,
we'll take the bullet for you.
But you need that for these websites. You need to draw a line in the sand somewhere, because I mean there's not going to be like there's no clear cut like, yes, this is where anime stops and cartoons begin or anything like that. It's always going to be this sort of like
very blurry.
Yeah, it's like a gradual sort of like transition, essentially.
Well, it's funny with Transformers because some Transformers shows are on Mel and some are not, and I always find that's kind of like
some
a fascinating,
are not. It's
weird sort of mix. And it is like a lot of them are. There are like shows that 4C has animated for Transformers, and I think those might not even be on Mal though, but some other ones are. So it's just like,
and I can almost guarantee you that it's because of the whole made for a Japanese market argument.
Yeah, it's fascinating in a way. Like if I went on Mal right now and I typed in like Transformers, I could see like which shows do they think is cool and which are not. Okay. Superlink. Which one the fuck's that? I don't remember. Is that Armageddon? I think that might be Armageddon.
I have no idea. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Basically, we've watched the Transformers movie out of context, and that's it.
Okay. Yes. So when I was growing up in England, the Transformers show on television was Armageddon, which was done by Toei, I think. Was it Toei again? Oh no, Actor. Is it this? It? They have a funny name for it here. I think Superlink is that. There's some random studio, but yeah, that one's apparently an anime, I guess. And that's all on YouTube now, I think, as well. Yeah, or Energon actually. Or maybe there's another.
I did watch Beast Wars.
Beast Wars are good. My nephew loves Beast Wars, even though it's like old as shit. It's really good though.
It's kind of got that jank CGI 90s charm.
That's an interesting one to bring up though, because there's like 3 Japanese Beast Wars shows that have nothing to do with the original series, but are like connected to it somehow.
Oh.
They're all 2D instead of 3D. Yeah. Yeah, there's something called Beast Wars Neo, and that's on Mal right here. And there's several seasons of that. And it's like set in between seasons, and some of the cast I think are different. And there's also Beast Wars 2, which again is another Japanese exclusive that's on Mal, but it gets to be on Mal.
Well, see, there you go. No one can say Beast Wars is bad. They made Beast Wars 2.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like a weird sorts of things like this. I guess, yeah, just have like Japanese productions. Like, have you ever seen like the Lilo and Stitch anime?
By Madhouse, isn't it?
I think it's just called like, I think so.
Yeah, I've seen it on television. Like,
I remember like watching it as like a kid and being like, oh, it's just a cartoon.
Yeah, it looks
I
like
look
one.
at it as an adult and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen it, but I haven't really thought twice about it. But yeah, Madhouse was
Yeah.
outsourced to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if what was it outsourced or was it because it's on AnimeList? Is it on MyAnimeList? Let's see.
I didn't even know it was on there. I mean, I haven't looked at the production too much, but I know they did it for them. There's a one shot.
Yes,
that's on there.
It's
but
on.
There's a whole television show as well. I think they worked on.
It's on MyAnimeList. So I guess it counts. It's not outsourced. So
maybe. I mean, again, where the line is always funny.
Where do you draw that line? I mean, again, you have to like draw a line in the sand somewhere. Otherwise, you are going to run into situations like you can't have every American
cartoon ever that's been produced in Japan on these websites, or it's going to completely destroy them.
Had like work done in Japan, or like if you include Korea, we're just going to be including everything.
They had the fucking pillows on those Lilo and Stitch anime. What the fuck?
What?
They had the pillows. Dude,
did they? What the fuck?
My, that's so funny.
ED.
What, the ED? What the was it just in Japan or the English one got? I don't remember the pillows being the fucking soundtrack.
Holy shit!
That's crazy. Now you know it's an anime.
I also like that Masa Maruyama produced the Lilo and Stitch anime.
Of course, he is the head of a Madhouse, after all.
Of course, he will produce everything at Madhouse.
Yeah, well, what's interesting about that is I think that is during the peak year of Madhouse's collapse, which is
2008 to 2009.
Yes, because what you can tell about that time is the amount of stuff they're producing is way too high for their studio percentage. They got about 8 television shows, including the Lilo and Stitch one. They have 5 movies and probably a bunch of OVAs or something as well. It's just like it's far too much for the studio to be producing.
Red Line is in production.
Yep,
yeah,
it's been in production.
Lord.
Yeah, and it's not even the most expensive movie they made originally in 2009.
Catherine Sins,
I think that's the Penguin one. They did that French co-production Penguin film, which apparently cost the fucking arm and a leg because it was CGI. I think it was split, maybe the cost of it with France, but that obviously didn't help their situation, especially with the rental market collapsing, or the DVD market or whatever collapsing. So that didn't help them on sales.
This would have been around the time Maruyama also left Madhouse as well.
Yeah, it's the year afterwards, I think. This is basically the peak, and then it falls. So the 2009 happens, and then they realize, I think at the end of 2009, they have like a really bad quarter, which is publicly talked about, and it's like, okay. And he's like, okay, oopsie. Maybe time to start thinking about packing my bags before it gets too corporate here.
Yeah. Maruyama specifically cited the fact that like Madhouse had grown to the point where it's like it was impossible for him to really like get anything done creatively, basically, or it was like a real struggle for that. So he left to then found Mappa, and then there's a really funny interview where he's talking about this. He's talking about the reason that he left Madhouse being because it got too big and too corporate, and then he says that he's worried that Mappa is going the same way as well. Yeah. And that interview took place like a month or two before he left Mappa.
I'm kind of interested in doing a Mappa video at some point. It depends on how I set things up. I don't know how fast I'm going to go, because I don't think I'll get there by the time Jujutsu Kaisen finishes. That's too soon.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in the topic, because I think it's very fascinating. Just looking historically about, like, there's so many shitty stories about Mappa in the last, like, decade. You know, it goes back to, like, I mean, I remember talking to an animator on stream, someone in my community, who told me about how it was to work on, like, Attack on Titan. It was a complete shit show. And that the animation director for that episode they worked on knew less about animation than they did, and they're still young. And that was when the first season came back, I guess, or when they took on...
I think it was... And maybe this is just, like, cynical me, but when Mappa took over Attack on Titan, a lot of people were obviously upset, specifically because, you know, it wasn't up to, like, the visual quality that Wit had done, and, you know, all this, like, CG usage and stuff. And...
Sure.
Me being a kind of a cynic also kind of thinks that, like, the reason that people are now becoming more and more critical of working conditions in the anime industry isn't necessarily because these conditions are getting worse. I mean, they are, and
Sure.
but they've been shit for a very long time.
Yeah, a
And
lot
I
of it
think
doesn't
it's
get
really
talked
just
about.
because that it has now like negatively affecting something like Attack on Titan, which a lot of people like, and it's getting in the way of their enjoyment. Now it's becoming something more acceptable to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are very basic on that level, I suppose. Outside out of mind for a lot of production equals, bad time for most shows if wherever they're made.
Yeah.
But I guess when it starts affecting them, they can actually see the problems in front of them, or that it feels weird or something. Or, I mean, one of the things I saw in one interview, I didn't bring it up in the video for anime, but I did relate to it. And somebody said, who worked in the industry, basically said that, 3,000 frames is still pretty standard for TV shows, but a show like Attack on Titan uses about 5,000 to 10,000.
Oh, okay. So something more action heavy, and we'll have a lot more eyes on it.
Well, I think they're specifically talking about them, just that, like, I guess Mappa is upping the frame count because you can tell they do a lot more rotoscope in those shows. I can't necessarily say that's the same for every shonen show, but specifically, I think they're talking that era would have been the Mappa era, and maybe even when Wit was doing it, that like a lot of the big sequences are very like heavy on the frames, heavy on the drawings. And I know a lot of people talk about how there's like it seems to be a fair bit of rotoscope in the later seasons because of how realistic it gets. Just because they're trying to get that fucking stuff done as quick as possible. So there seems to be like a fair bit of roto here and there. But yeah, they seem to be using a lot more drawings.
Come out recently as well with because the original director of like season 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen and what was it? Yeah, the movie Jujutsu Kaisen 0, Sung-Hoo Park. Yeah, he basically left Mappa and is now doing like
He's got
his own
studio
thing, which I guess like, yeah, he founded his own studio with like the specific ethos of like, we're going to try not to be like that, essentially.
We're not Mappa.
Yeah. Do you know the story about the movie?
Mappa.
The Jujutsu Kaisen movie? Do you know about this story?
No.
They had a 4-month production schedule.
Holy shit.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What?
Yeah, this isn't 1979 either. This isn't like Loop on the Third like Castle Cagliostro where it's like a cartoony looking thing. No, this is fucking Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, that's...
How the fuck did they get that out in 4 months? What?
Very difficultly. It was an impossible task they somehow managed to do.
Somehow, what the fuck? I could definitely see wanting to leave a studio.
Yeah, who made you do a fucking movie in 4 months on a thing that would make him like the third highest grossing anime shonen film of all time, or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, one of the Well, it's also interesting with Zom 100. Zom 100 was produced by a new studio called Bug Films, which was basically ex-OLM staff.
Yeah.
And then that production has also just been completely fucked because I guess, just the anime industry, again, now going back to the doomerism, anime industry is just, is fucked and you can't escape.
Oh my God.
So let me think, what's a nice thing to talk about? Favorite anime movies.
So kind of in line with that, like people have been talking about like Frieren, I guess, because it's a Madhouse production and they're like, oh, Frieren's being made in good conditions, putting Madhouse back on the map. And I
don't know if that's true in the broader sense. I don't think they actually know that for sure, because remember that Frieren also released its first episode with 4 at once. So that definitely would have been a pressure on the schedule that they had to do 4 episodes for the first week. So obviously they were already thinking on tighter things, and a lot of the ways that Madhouse deals with those pressures is that they outsource. So like when episodes are becoming too difficult to work on, they'll just get Dr. Movie or another Korean team to sort of fill in for them, so they can then get the other Japanese members to focus more on a different Japanese episode, or a different like episode, the next episode or something. They'll like fill it in.
From what I understand, Sunny Boy, which was also Madhouse, and the director of Frieren, Keiichiro Saito.
Yeah, they both worked on that.
Yeah, and that was from what I understand, that was a pretty like easygoing production, especially in terms of because where a lot of like these productions end up hitting like a strong bottleneck is in like the corrections phase, because those need to be handled by more senior staff, your animation directors for either like the episode or
there's a lot of checking.
The whole series.
This is a problem with like Dragon Ball Super. If you notice that Dragon Ball Super schedule is really bad, but if you look at their schedule, like credit list in the second half of the show, you see they actually sometimes have 4 to 5 animation directors per episode. That's fucking absurd.
That's
most animated movies don't have that many.
No, yeah, usually it's one guy.
Yeah,
and
it's usually one guy.
They usually have then the enough time, and the drawings, the animation cuts that they're getting are usually they don't need to make as many corrections.
Well, this is
training staff, all that sort of stuff.
Somewhat a reason why like outsourcing can be a little bit difficult, because if you outsource to lots of different people, you're going to get lots of different things back, and if you try and get them all consistent, that's going to take a lot more manpower.
And you can't train people. You can't like you may submit a cut and then you're just not going to get any feedback on that cut, so you don't know what you may have done wrong, what you need to improve, anything like that. Which again just gets
leads back to the layout problem of the industry. If you can't train people in house, new problems arise. Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess going based on the production for Sonny Boy and then also the production for Bocchi also seemed to be pretty easy going.
Really? I heard it sounds pretty tight at times. It sounds like they were really on the edge at points. I mean, they were doing their best, but like it did sound like there were some very tiring days ahead of them.
Maybe.
Like any television show, like you work in 13 weeks, you need like a month per episode at best, maybe more. You're going to be able to keep that schedule up.
Well, I guess people do also like tend to conflate like the visual quality of something with like the finished
product, and they don't really have much connection because a lot of the finishing is probably going to be outsourced anyway. So like it's not going to be
a good example would be like Wonder Egg Priority, which I mean later episodes do start to look a little bit rougher, but overall it's still a pretty solid looking show, especially in terms of the action.
Yeah, Cloverworks does good work.
The production was a complete shit show.
Yeah, and like it's usually in spite that these things look the way they do. I mean, I would say the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, I mean, from what I've seen of it, very little I've seen of it, it's obviously like a Sakuga movie. The movie was very it looks like all the crazy cuts and like very articulate, pretty boys. Like that's, but
4 months?
Yeah, 4 months. What the fuck are you doing in 4 months? Trying to die? Got a death wish?
Trying to die?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh god.
What'd you think about Frieren?
I like it. I think it's cool.
Like it?
It's got funny elf lady. That was my.
She does have some good reaction images.
It does.
There are, yeah. It surprised me how popular that it's become,
I'm genuinely surprised.
really.
I didn't know it was this popular. I just saw it and was like, oh, that's cute. I showed it to a friend of mine because I was like, this is the kind of show you'd like. Because we watched the beginning of what was that old D&D Lotus War. We watched the beginning of Lotus War together a while back, the cute elves in it. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, it's just like Lotus War.
And it's interesting, yeah, because both Frieren and Bocchi share the same director.
Yeah.
So, if you can go 3 for 3 in terms of just,
what comes next, I guess.
Bocchi was one of the biggest hits of last year. Frieren is certainly one of the biggest hits of this year going into next year.
I do wonder if that 4-episode beginning was what really got them there. That they were like, okay, maybe it would be hard to sell this to people if we don't get like enough of it in front of them. So
that could be it, especially like on the coattails of Oshinoko, which did that whole like hour and a half long sort of thing, which may end up becoming a more common thing. I wouldn't be surprised if that was like something that we end up seeing more. Because
what I imagine is
you
that
get people hyped up.
The idea is that usually if your production's going the way it should be, your 4 episodes should be complete by the time it starts airing. So the idea would be like, but then that doesn't give you much leeway if you have to then jump to the next week.
That means you're
a bit fucked.
A little bit more stressful going from episode 5 forward.
Yeah, because you don't have any buffer room unless you make up a much bigger buffer room. And even I think Frieren's supposed to keep running for a while because I didn't know how many cores it's going to be.
Yes, it's
running for quite a lot of episodes.
It's like 28 episodes.
We started off joking about like how going longer than 24 episodes, how pretentious. I think Frieren's like 28.
Yeah, I heard 28 is a weird number. I don't know if it's just because that's how much they've got to adapt.
Yeah, it's unusual.
It's going to be a struggle for them. I'm not going to lie. Like Madhouse doesn't do that many productions anymore. I don't know how they're going to manage this.
Hopefully they can keep it up in the back half.
I imagine we're going to see a lot more Korean talent on it. That is my assumption.
I feel like I would enjoy Frieren more if Anime Elf didn't come out earlier this year.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
They kind of touch on some similar things as far as like the themes of like these elves like dealing with being outside of like human time.
Yeah.
I feel like
also being quirky and kind of having weird interests. In the case of like Frieren, she's like interested in fucking weird ass spells and potions that melt your clothes.
Well, their antisocial kind of behaviors are being characterized through these like kind of otaku
Yeah, I mean,
kind of hobbies.
Frieren seems in
Frieren's a
herself.
spell otaku.
She's a very interesting kind of otaku databasing animal, right? In that she databases spells and other weird trinkets that she keeps in a big old box that she never fucking knows where anything is in. And she's always sleeping. I do like that about it. God, what was I going to say? What was it? Oh, I was going to say the aesthetic. Yeah, the aesthetic. I find that quite interesting though, in terms of how. I don't know if this is just. There's something about the way Frieren looks that's very particular, and it's compositing. Like it has a sort of like a side effect to it, in that I think it's trying to look a little bit more old school, in that like the way the backgrounds are painted, and there's sort of like deep shades of blue and stuff like that, and just the sort of effects they add to them, as well as like they add chroma.
That was a similar thing to Sunny Boy as well.
Yeah, I think that's similar pipelines between those two. I would say. Because they add like a chroma aberration, I think they call it, to the
chromatic aberration.
Yeah, that's the one. To the characters in Frieren is like and they've added a bit of crust to the lines as well, which is usually done through like the ending process. So it does have that a bit more textural feel to it, which probably makes it feel a bit different than some of the other elf shows that came out this year. That might be a bit more clean.
Yeah, it is interesting how like we've gotten 2 elf anime in 2023 that kind of have like these like similar sort of ideas, because Edome Elf is, I mean, in Edome Elf she's literally just an otaku.
Yeah, I think Edome Elf was able to for me anyway, Edome Elf was able to explore these themes a bit more is more conducive to exploring these themes, I guess I could put it. Where like a lot of like Frieren's runtime has been like focused on like these demons and stuff, and you're like,
there's certainly a bit of that. I mean, I'm definitely more into the slice of life, haha, funny hamburger.
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy about that.
I think in general, I think Frieren works more as a sort of like Iyashike kind of thing, with Iyashike in terms of like being more laid back. I mean, obviously there's like bittersweet stuff going on.
Yeah, I think they really they specify on the flashback. Like flashback is really important to the 3 of them. They're like specifically about, all right, this flashback will relate exactly to the moment we're talking about right now. They will have like a longer flashback, and you'll be like, where's it going? And then at the end, they'll be like, oh, okay, it connects directly to what we're seeing right now. And then it's back.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, obviously the animators working on it like do a pretty great job, and the action scenes are like completely solid. I've got nothing to say against them. I don't mind it when it gets.
Are you all caught up? Because I haven't.
I've been out and about, so I haven't seen the last couple of episodes. I think I got to 13. So
there was a dancing cut making the rounds in this like latest episode that looks really nice. Yeah,
I should have to see that at some point. I mean, it looks cute. I think I think a dance episode sounds perfect for the show. But maybe I kind of like that.
Dance episode.
Frieren can kind of just do that though. It can kind of go between like these sort of like serious drama, lore bollocks about maybe this demon you got to kill or something. I don't know, whatever. Or like, we got to have like a life and death battle, and then it'll kind of go, what about the episode where we collect turnips? Oh, it's an episode where we go to a dance. Oh, you're stuck in the mud. Oh, that sucks. Oh,
that sucks.
Yeah. Sorry, are you going to save me? No, probably not. You're kind of gross.
Oh, no. I mean, I definitely prefer like like the lighter stuff more to like the action, but
I can't say they're like doing it wrong though. I mean, definitely like there's obviously well bordered and well like animated and directed and stuff. Like,
I mean, the action was certainly very strong.
Yeah, so which I think is interesting, but they can kind of like jump between both of them so seamlessly.
Yeah. Again, I guess. Yeah, I think this is something we had as like a concern. When those first 4 episodes came out, we're like, wow, this is a pretty good looking show.
Yeah. And it's kept it up
it's 28 episodes? Oh, I hope. Fingers crossed they can follow through with that. We're about halfway through, and it doesn't seem like they've stumbled yet. So
yeah, they just gotta. I mean, it's going to be a constant fight, and a lot of that's going to be about how they use their resources. Madhouse is definitely more prone to outsourcing than a lot of places because they've been working with Dr. Movie since the 90s. And Dr. Movie is incredibly well trained. I mean, they even work with Ghibli, so like, it's not exactly like they don't know what they're doing.
They're like the big like go-to Korean studio.
Yeah, for like finishing usually. It's like they'll be brought in to do finishing, correction, and in betweens usually. Or painting.
Crazy, it's all one guy too. They just call him Doctor.
Yeah, he's crazy.
I don't think anyone knows his real name.
He knows movies very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though that apparently he even worked with The Simpsons. So when The Simpsons did their shitty Death Note episode, which some people apparently like, I was like, what the fuck? That was terrible. But apparently people think it's good. Dr. Movie did it. Because I remember my friend told me like Dr. Movie worked. And I was like, who the fuck is Dr. Movie at the time? It was like ages ago. I was like, I can't remember. I was like, why is Dr. Movie work? That's on Madhouse. Madhouse did Death Note. And I was like, oh, it's that Dr. Movie. It's that fucking Korean team they work with.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, since we talked about like anime of the year stuff, and we were talking about Frieren, would you say Frieren's your anime of the year?
Let me think. I have to remember what I've actually seen this year. I can't remember. See, I don't keep a mouse. So this is the controversy here, where you can tell they hate me for this, but I stopped like trying to database when I was like 19 or something because I was like, I can't fucking keep up with this shit. This is too much effort. And like these websites are really like bad for UI for this stuff. Like you have to press like 5 different buttons to log one show. I'm like, fucking out, really? That's crazy.
This is why eventually the end game for all of this is keeping a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I just write it down.
Now made.
I'll just write
How
down.
Just write it down.
How are you gonna pull out your link like Big Dong Schlong and whip it on the table if someone like challenges you in an argument?
Yeah. What if someone calls you a tourist?
They already have, but I'm just like, bro.
They already have.
Yeah, I've had people call. I didn't even know what it was until they told me. I was like, what the fuck's a tourist? I just think it's funny because it's just like, bro, the evidence is my channel. Like, you want to go to my channel? Who the fuck else has talked about anime that's like, I've seen every 60s anime movie ever like you can get your hands on at the time when it came out, when I made that video. I was like, I watched them all. I watched everything that Madhouse fucking made in the movies and Toei in those eras.
Doesn't count. Have you seen all of One Piece?
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so I guess I would. Oh, no, I guess I can't prove it. Well, to be fair, I guess I've missed the last couple of weeks.
You didn't mark it on a list? Oh,
no. Well, I guess maybe they'd get me on, like, I read some of it and I watched some bits of it. So, like, you know, I've watched most of it, but I also read bits. So they're probably like, oh, didn't even watch the entire 186 episodes of One Piece. I watched 183 or something. No, 1,883.
Can you beat Goku though?
Popeye can. That's my anime take. My power scaling thing. I think Popeye can beat Goku because he's got infinite stamina.
Popeye is basically like Batman, except if instead of prep time, he just needs more spinach.
Well, I actually think this is an interesting thing about One Piece. Actually, is because the One Piece Gear 5 came out, right? And Gear 5 is just like Popeye, and I was like, oh, I guess Luffy can beat Goku now.
Well, there you go.
But actually, maybe he can't because he doesn't have the stamina. That's the problem. Like Popeye still has like way more stamina than Luffy does. He can't keep in that he can't keep in Popeye mode for too long. So unless he like fucks Goku up like instantly, Popeye just lives in that. Like that's just he's built different, right? He's got the spinach.
Yeah, that's just his every day.
Yeah, that's just him. He's like Frieren. He's built up that ability for so long.
Popeye the Slayer.
Yeah.
Popeye the
Slayer. Kill yourself.
Popeye the Slayer, man.
That's what he'd say. Yeah.
This is why you need to make. You need to convert your channel to a fucking power scaling channel.
Yeah.
Talk about Popeye's feats.
Yeah, maybe it would be a pretty good April Fool's joke. I'm sure people would be really confused. But I'll make my case. I'll make my case with Popeye. I think his Golden Age powers will far outrank anything that Goku could do.
Outrank is probably an appropriate word too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the way I've always thought about it is that they'd have to have like a sort of like pissing contest. That's the only way it would work. They'd have to do like feats, like delivering milk and pushing like anchors or something, and then they'd have like a fight at the end or something.
It's just basically like almost like how they did like the Creamy Mommy versus Miki Momo.
Yeah, it'd be like almost like Herculean tasks, right? They're like fighting for like the chair of Olympus or something. So they have to do these crazy tasks and compete with each other.
I think I don't remember. I think me and Sai have the same anime of the year at the moment.
I legitimately can't remember what else I've watched this year, even though I probably have talked about it on my Patreon. Like probably every show I've watched is probably on there, but I can't remember.
This is why you gotta have that list autism going.
It's why you gotta be database built, like a database brain rotted. I mean, for me, it's Pluto.
Yeah, same.
Oh, yeah,
the other Tezuka anime from this year.
I mean, the problem with Pluto, which maybe I'll get past, but like I just look at the compositing and I go, oh, that's fucking nasty, bro. Like I know my compositing because I do a lot of it in the past when I was doing art stuff. So like, when I just see how like fucking garish that is, I'm like, oh my god, fucking hell.
I didn't really. There were only a few points. There's one scene, I think it's in episode 1, where it's like, why is this so blue?
Yeah.
They're clearly
That's interesting.
outdoors. It's really bright out. Why is the scene blue?
Yeah, and I remember there being more of an issue with compositing for me, the trailer, that I didn't notice as much. I mean, there were some moments of it with the show, but
I think maybe it's the Ohira stuff that seems to be the most egregious, because it's like you don't need to shove a bunch of shit on top of his stuff. Usually you want to keep it quite raw.
I know that was kind of like a thing I saw people talking about that on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a bit much. I mean, I don't know, it might not ruin the show for some people, but sometimes it makes, when I look at some of the compositing, it looks to me a bit unfinished, which made me assume that the show wasn't like all there, but I think it's actually just a stylistic choice.
I would assume so, given that
I think they had the people behind the scenes say that it was a stylistic choice. They were going for something like very real to core, I guess.
Yeah, well, specifically, in terms of like, I mean, I like how like they use like they have like very like photorealistic explosions being used.
Yeah,
and I thought that was
stuff.
like, I mean, for me, that definitely feels like a stylistic choice, and I kind of like stuff like that.
Certainly makes it feel a bit like what would be the term? How I could say it makes it look like a GoHands show, like an early GoHands show, like the early cyberpunk shows, like the movies.
I don't know if I would say it's
Pussy Hands.
that.
Yeah, you never seen that one with Pussy Hands?
Oh God, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was like, Pussy. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that because I don't know. I think that's an interesting aesthetic, but it's very strong, very garish.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I don't think it's like unintentional. Like, it's definitely supposed to be that way. But it's very.
I mean, the case of something like GoHands, GoHands is very interesting in the fact that like.
Oh, I've said
they don't have a Twitter.
GoHands interest.
They don't have a like a website or anything like that.
Yeah, they're kind of an
but
anomaly.
You will know something is a GoHands show because of how it looks.
They really get that, and it's interesting to see that. I feel like those early cyberpunk shows kind of define their aesthetic, because they kind of had like, that was the show that really sort of pushes that, and then a lot of their shows afterwards seem to follow on and just like make it like far. It's almost like every time they distort it further. So like you had the show like this, and it's like, this is a gritty sci-fi world reference, a bit like that, and then suddenly it'll be like a normal show will have those aesthetic, and it will just push it. And it's like, all right, we're going to push the.
I mean, as far as brand recognition goes, it fucking works.
Past. Yeah, I mean, they are and you're like the biggest place in Osaka, right? They're the biggest animation studio. I think, that like work on their own stuff. It's interesting.
I think they handle most of, from what I've read, they handle like most, if not all, their production in house, and the only other studio I could think of that really does that is like KyoAni. So.
Yeah, I mean, it might be that there's some secret outsourcing going, which isn't uncommon in the industry, but it does seem that they lose credit that they do this stuff. But like, considering where they are from the country, it's possible they've got like a bunch of people who wouldn't otherwise go into the industry. Like, on the side. Yeah,
they're just like soaking up like all like the Osaka stuff, kind of like how KyoAni just soaks up like the Kyoto town.
You just get everything there, and anyone who's kind of like just getting out of art school, whatever, will come to the studio if it be.
Yeah.
What I do find interesting about them is I was thinking of once making a video called like GoHands about them.
GoHands.
Yeah, because I just think there's the problem is I just don't know if there's enough out there. Like, it's the kind of thing where I'm like, I need to be able to talk to these people. I need to be able to have a conversation. Be like, what the fuck is what's your deal?
Like I've started researching into the get the fact that they have no website.
Yeah.
They have a Twitter, any sort of like
and
social
the last
media
time you're going to see
presence.
anything
It
about
makes
them,
it
it's
hard.
like a whole plagiarism thing. Apparently, they like may or may not have a plagiarized a couple designs on a version of a show that's not going to come out anymore.
Oh yeah, I remember.
They got exposed by H Bomber guy.
Oh
my god!
Damn, I can't believe it. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like the obvious title for a video like that would just be the GoHands problem or something like that.
Oh yeah, I could go that way. I was going to call it like GoHands is the goat or something like that, or GoHands, just because I wanted to give them the opposite effect, because I feel like it's too easy to assume there's a
everyone shits on them. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I don't like how stuff like handshakers or W's looks, but I think they're still an interesting studio.
I think what's interesting about them is how complete it is. Like their animation directors know what the fuck they're doing, because you can tell it. They've got free shade hair, and it's really detailed hair.
Oh yeah,
and it's all moving, and it's moving perfectly. And even if you think the rest of it looks weird, they obviously it's been corrected properly and is.
They have a lot of very talented animators at the studio. Yeah. Obviously, the thing is that there are weird choices in terms of storyboarding and compositing. So like the
Yes,
start and
they
the end
have these
basically
sort of
are like
interesting positions with those. But again, until I can see the storyboards, it's hard for me to read how much is that the boards, or is that just like how it ended in the end, like when it sort of adapted.
That's true, yeah.
So it gets that's where the questions like one of that. I think that the clip went around, and this one really got me interested a while ago. They had that clip of that guy going up the stairs, and I was just like, how did they do that? And I had to really think about it. And I saw some of the original Gengar eventually, and I was like, okay, that's how this works. But just
I think we may have been going through it like that specific sequence in a call, and you showed me like you can see
you can see
there's like a seam,
slip.
you can see a brief cut.
Yeah, they slip between the two cuts, which maybe two different people working on it is possible, or two different or it could have just gotten caught in the there's something they're going to fix in the TV version. It's really hard to tell, but yeah, it might be it might be the way they took the footage. Maybe it might be that. Because it feels like a virtual camera. It feels like they've done some kind of virtual camera thing, and it's possible that the way the original model or whatever they were using to base these shots on, because it's definitely not rotoscoped. It's too weird.
No.
You can't have done it that way with that fish lens. That's fucking impossible. I don't know how that. And I'm like, it's not. They haven't drawn over a 3D like actual event, but like it could be like a really rough.
Doesn't
3D.
have that feel either.
Yeah, it could be. To me, it feels like there is a 3D model of the stairs, and there might be a 3D like cube sort of person that is like put in the place of where that person would be, and they might just not move very quick, but it might just be for perspective. So they may just be like T-posing. They might have like T-posing 3D model go up the stairs, so they can kind of just figure out roughly where the camera when they move the camera there, like what it should look like, what the angle is. And that could be where this mishap happens, where there could be some sort of mishap of like a bump, or it could be that there's two different people working on it and they haven't cleaned it up properly. But yeah, there's a lot of frames. It's all on ones, if I remember right. It's basically all ones, which is why it feels so weird, because they've like they filled it in completely with in-betweens. So it's like very lucid. So like it moves weirdly. It has all the weird lenses, but then it also is really smooth. So it's these weird mixes that GoHands sometimes do. And the show doesn't always look like that. So there's just like specific instances when this happens.
Yeah. It was like in the cat show. I mean, it's a
that one's pretty
girl
regular.
living with a giant cat, and there's like something,
I saw a bit of that actually.
I
watched some of that, so I think I've seen about 3 or 4 episodes of it. I think I forgot to keep watching
parts
it.
of that will look
it looks
parts of that will look pretty good.
Yeah,
and then it will just hit you with a weird fish island, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, the first episode especially, because there's like a whole bit with a skateboarder. They just throw it in, and it's just like whoa. But I mean, it keeps you on your toes. I'll give you that. You say anything about GoHands, it'll keep you awake, because it's like something at some point something might happen.
You never know. It's like,
look, all I'm saying is GoHands is pushing the envelope. What are all these other studios doing?
The cat show also looks a fair bit less garish in terms of like, because like
I think it's because it's based on a source material.
Yeah, because
they try to keep within
Handshakers
that.
and W's both had like this very
they're original shows,
like harsh gradient.
Yes, they have a very specific look. It's kind of like a purple-green thing going on, or like a really harsh color.
Yeah.
Got very strong skies, harsh colors, a very particular sort of chroma a feel to it.
Yeah.
Just
kind of makes
it almost feels like there's a texture over everything.
Yeah.
It feels like
the way everything like moves,
like an A and V that has like a fucking color filter added to it or something.
Oh yeah, like we're watching TikTok.
Yeah, which is interesting. But like just the way all the hair moves, it's so detailed. But it's not wrong.
It's almost too much motion.
Yeah,
but it's like then there's like this green to blue gradient.
Yeah, they do this.
It's
like green purple. Like everything in their shows tends to have like a green purple. Effect, which again I think comes from that sci-fi movie series they did back in the 2009 to 2011.
Right, Marduk Scramble,
yeah, because that's the kind of aesthetic that show had.
You have no idea what the hell we're talking about, by the way, because there's like no visual context.
It's fine. You can Google it, kids. Handshakers.
You can Google it.
It's
Handshakers.
It's pretty wacky.
If you don't know what it is, now you do.
Now you can watch it at your own time.